Well, hello there. Welcome along to another live shed chat. Now, this is following on from the earlier shed chat that we had live streamed at just before 12. And the Bachmann announcements came up at 12 o'clock. Well, at least there was supposed to. There was a lot of faffing, and essentially the Bachmann website fell over, came back up, fell over again. And even now, I think you have to be some kind of a total genius at web trickery to be able to find any of these new products on the Bachmann website. It's been actually quite a struggle to find a lot of these pictures, but I'm back now. Still full of a cold, so I've got a bright red nose like some kind of alcoholic. And hi there to the guy who would not share his name. Good to have you along. Nice to see you back. And well, the purpose of this later session is that we're going to go through with some of the photographs that have surfaced, and hopefully more people are going to be able to join us. I'm going to be sneezing a lot because what probably doesn't come across on this video, apart from the fact that I'm stinking ill, is that we've got a very powerful light behind me so that I don't just appear like some kind of shadow, like some kind of Charlie's Angels nemesis. Hello there to Diffans GWR. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Yes, actually, Ted not absolutely right there. James, when he had his nose stung by a bee in Thomas the Tank Engine. Hello to you. And yeah, basically, there's a bad cold doing the rounds, but I won't bore you with that, except you'll see me sniffling a lot, bright red nose. I'm not drunk, doing dry January, so I'll do quite well with that. But hey, and we've got pronounced Duvan. Yeah, Welsh. Yeah, nefodd when yachavi. I speak enough Welsh to convince non-Welsh speakers that I can speak Welsh. Real Welsh speakers are wondering why I'm stringing random words together. So joch am fawr, and let's get into this. And yeah, right. Anyway, let's move on. As I was saying before, the Bachmann website has still really not been updated very well. So you should be able to see on the main screen there, this is it. This is all they've put up, which isn't really very helpful. We want to see in the pages, not on the pages. So I've gone to a couple of backup websites. So as I said earlier on, RM Web, we used this extensively earlier on. And actually, at this juncture, I'm just going to point out, I'm not affiliated with any of the manufacturers in any way. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I don't get freebies from anybody. I'm also not affiliated with any of the retail premises in any way. I know I mention a few of them, but that's purely as a customer. So what you get from me is completely unbiased. There's no commercial interests at play here. So, you know, hopefully this gives a fresh sort of outside of the manufacturing and retail community view on what's going on. But these pictures here that I'm going to show first, these come courtesy of RM Web, and RM Web is like the online forum for BRM, British Railway Modelling Magazine, and that also incorporates Garden Rail Magazine, things like that. But they had their man in the field who got a few pictures, and it's been updated. So hi there to everybody who's coming in. We've got Stuart Willard. Hi there. Welcome along. And we went through the actual pictures of all of the narrow gauge stuff, which is seeing me scroll slowly through here. All of these we looked at earlier on today. So I'm going to gloss over these, and also the new HKA Bogey Hopper Wagon, which, unlike Hornby, Bachmann have pretty much their only new tooled from scratch announcement is this wagon. It's also going to be available in N-gauge. In fact, if I center that picture, that is the N-gauge. Looks like the pre-production, maybe test shot pictures there. So if you're into that sort of thing, nice enough wagon. And then we get down to new releases from existing tooling. So we've finally got some pictures here now. So we've got the London Transport L94. This has appeared previously. I went and looked this up. This particular one, L94, was originally done as a special commission for Kernow Model Centre. It appeared, I believe, with the catalogue number 32-217Z. And I'm not entirely clear whether this is different in any way. I think that over a period of time, London Transport had on their books somewhere in the region of maybe as many as 12 of these ex-Great Western Railway pannier tanks that they used for engineering trains. I'm not sure how many of them actually ran, whether any of them, I think there's at least 2, may have recycled the same number, so they didn't exist on London Transport at the same time. But certainly it'd be interesting to look up how many of these different models, how many of these different prototypes Bachmann have done the models of, but certainly this is one that has appeared before, albeit as a limited edition. I know in the past, Bachmann have said that they wouldn't repeat a model, but they have gone back on that slightly. I know at the Model Zone experiment, the Class 24 in the red and blue RTC livery, they re-released that for Model Zone, even though it had previously been released as a Model Rail Special Edition when the Class 24 first turned up. But with that, their excuse was, yes, but the new version has etched nameplates. The original version only had transfers. But I'm not entirely sure what their reasoning behind this one would be. I'm going to scroll down. And we've got a picture of the 242, the Lancashire and Yorkshire Class 5 tank. And it's going to appear as number 10,730 in this LMS Crimson Lake. Now, I believe that they've already released it in that livery before. I'm thinking I've seen it in the shops. I'm sure I've seen it. Whether or not I think there were some differences. Certainly, it'll be a different running number. But I don't know. Is there a picture? No, the picture isn't here. So I'm going to go to. Whilst I'm using the Hatton's website, I'm not in any way affiliated with Hatton's, so rest assured there's no commercial concerns at play here. But I'm just using their website because they've got all these pictures that Bachmann have provided. Now, this is, 31-171 is going to be, it's going to be re-released, I say re-released, in the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway livery. Now, the National Railway Museum has commissioned not one but 2 of these models in the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway livery, but both of those were different to how this appears in the main range. So immediately, like, my ears are pricking up. It's like, tell me more, Sensei. Well, with this, this has got Lancashire, Yorkshire written out in full on the tanks, but rather than being in an arc over the top, which was the second version that the National Railway Museum released, the first version is exactly like this, but imagine this, but without either Lancashire or Yorkshire written on the tanks. And they did it for the number, off the top of my head, I think it's 1006, which is the preserved example, the only example that survives, and it's in the National Railway Museum. And interestingly enough, pop fact, it has a wooden chimney, the version that's in the National Railway Museum. And the reason for that is for no other reason than when it was restored cosmetically to go into the National Railway Museum, the chimney, the original chimney, was found to be completely shot, rotted away. They would have needed to have cast another one. But at Horwich Locomotive Works, which is where it was cosmetically restored, they have like a wooden pattern, which is what they use to be able to cast new parts such as chimneys. Now, they knew that this was the last one of this class in existence. There was no way they were ever going to need to make another chimney for these particular locomotives. So rather than cast a new chimney, they actually painted up the wooden pattern and put that on the locomotive. So the locomotive carries its wooden pattern that you would theoretically need to cast new chimneys. The reason I know that is because a friend of my father's did his apprenticeship at Horwich Locomotive Works, and the first job that they gave him was cosmetically restoring this locomotive. So essentially we're going to get a different running number for this locomotive and a slight different livery variation on what we've seen before. Right, I'm going to go back to the RM web page and I'm going to scroll down. As you can see, we've not got a picture for all of the releases, and I think what Andy York has picked out is the significant ones. Now, what you'll see in the centre of the screen here is 31-460A. This is the South Eastern and Chatham Railway lined green. Now this, we debated this at lunchtime when the announcements first came through, and all we had was the big long list of catalogue numbers with a brief different description. Hi there, Ben Davis, just seeing your comment. Am I okay today? Well, apart from the stinking cold, the tail end of a sore throat, not doing too badly, it has to be said. But to go back to this model, now, as some of us probably remember, and I've taken the liberty of getting it out of the display cabinet. I'm going to actually, let me I've still got to look at the hotkeys. So let me just see now. I can bring up just me. So you'll see me in the camera. I've got rid of that web page now. And I have liberated from the display cabinet the original run. So this is catalogue number 31-460, no A suffix. And this is the same livery. So when this came out a few years ago now, it's in the livery, in the guise of number 592, which I think is the preserved example that runs at the Bluebell Railway these days. In this livery from time to time. It was available retail for, I think you could actually pick it up for about £69.99 at the discounted price. The RRP was maybe sort of £75, £80. And it sold out so quickly. In fact, I think it's on record as being the most successful non-limited edition model that Bachmann have done. And so far as it still commands stupidly high prices on eBay because more people wanted it than were able to get it. But after having years and years of people asking Bachmann to rerun this particular model, so if you missed out first time round, get a pre-order in for this. I mean, like, no ifs, no buts. It will probably sell out a second time round. Now, there's a little caveat to that, which I'm going to come to in a moment. But you can see there, it's going to be in the guise of number 583 as opposed to 592. So it's not the preserved example, but, you know, if you squint, you're pretty much there. And it's the same livery. But it's not going to be as cheap as last time. Now, conservative estimates, I've seen prices ranging. I think the RRP is over £200. Yeah, you heard me right. Non-DCC sound. This is just a standard DC locomotive has gone above the £200 mark. And this is... That's a lot of money. I mean, that makes even the Hornby Princess Coronation class, which, as we're probably all aware, is still a pretty expensive locomotive at £170, actually start to seem like a really good price. But it is there. If you really want these, that is still cheaper than what these are changing hands. I've seen them up to around £550 on eBay. So you pays your money, you takes your choice. But if this for you is a locomotive that you must have, especially if you missed out last time round on the previous example, it's back in the catalogue. I see there we've got Adi Pullen. I'm looking forward to Bachmann North Eastern Railway G5 and the Caledonian Railway 812. I believe that is the North Eastern Railway G5, if I'm not mistaken, is an exclusive, at least initially, for TMC, the Model Centre over in Goathland. And I haven't seen any sort of like test shots or livery examples, anything like that yet. They're still in early days. But for a period probably in the region of 2 to 3 years, what we're going to see is that will be an exclusive to TMC, and it will be there for you to get, but it'll be an expensive model. The Caledonian Railway 812 looks very interesting, especially in that Caledonian Railway blue. But that's again, the deal has been done with Rails of Sheffield, and again, we're probably looking at it'll be exclusive to them for a period, a number of years, and then it will drift into the main catalogue. Looking at Piccadilly Model Railway by John Warner, £200 is outrageous for just DC model. I tend to agree with you there, but I think this is a case of market capitalism in action, and Bachmann know that there was a lot of money to be made on these that they didn't make last time. They sold them without even a premium over the regular runs of these models, and the prices that they're changing hands on eBay, even if you can find them, they are quite scarce. And as I said before, they're going for up to £550, again, just for a standard DC model. So I think Bachmann is cashing in a little bit on that. But I agree with you. I think at £200, this version might not sell out quite so fast. There's a part of me thinking I think it is going to sell out. So if it's a deal breaker for you, you're going to have to get in there and order one of these. Has Zoe got your Coke for you? Zoe, incidentally, her name is spelt ZOE with an umlaut on. She spells it with the traditional Greek spelling rather than the American spelling with the Y. So don't let her catch you typing that with the Y on the end, because she's not keen on that version of the name. But yes, she got Coke, and there's another one. She's actually gone out to work because she's a local councillor for West Orton North and Tumor. So she's actually in the council chamber in some kind of a meeting. I'm still getting over the tail end of that sore throat, so I'm going to have a slurp of Coke every time to time. Ted Knott, detail must be exquisite for that locomotive. Well, it has to be said that, let me see, I'll bring up this locomotive again. Here is the actual locomotive, so I'm going to proffer that to the webcam. It's the Bachmann C class. The detail is very good. It's a super detail era locomotive, but it's a couple of years old now, maybe even 3 or 4 years old now. So as a result of that, whilst it is a really, really good model, and I gave it very high marks when I did a box opening and review on, I think it was this particular model, although I do have both other South Eastern and Chatham Railway liveries that Bachmann did, the simplified green and also the wartime austerity grey. I got both of those. It is available in BR liveries and Southern liveries, but I have neither of those. But when you compare it to the standards that we've been getting in the last few months of releases, certainly like the Andrew Barclay shunter from Hatton's was amazing detail, and also the USA Dock Tank as well. That one I was very, very impressed with. The Helgen Class 7, that was really good locomotive too. Just, to get a broad cross-section from all the different manufacturers. They have all upped their game quite dramatically, it has to be said. Lemsip. I don't get on well with Lemsip, it has to be said. Although it's an interesting point. What I'm going to do is, this is great, modern technology. I know that I said that I would never get a smartphone, but here we are with a smartphone, and I'm inseparable from it. So I'm going to ask Zoe could you get Lemsip? There we are. It's a good suggestion there. Piccadilly Model Railway by John Warner. Could you get Lemsip on your way home? Question mark. And because we're married, you feel obliged. Kiss, kiss, kiss. Happily married, 10 years this year. I know, doesn't time fly? And before anybody says, oh, you get less for murder, you don't. I checked. Anyway, let's get back to the list here. We've been through a lot of these. I'm going to dip into some of these ones that we're not showing the actual. I'll just cancel. There we go. Yeah. So Lemsip is on the way. Yes. 10 years. Congratulations. I know it does. Oh, single malt fillet page. Yes, I know. Normally that would be my go-to throat soothing amines. But I'm doing dry January. How to get 4 for the product? 2 standard class. This is Ben Davis. I'm hope to get 4 of the products. There are the 2 standard class 3MT, class 2MT, Ivet BR Black with British Railways lettering. The class 8 750 pannier in GWR Black. Yeah, certainly some of these are what I would refer to as almost the bread and butter models, in that they're wide ranging. So many use for on layouts, time periods. It's things like the LMS Ginty. There's always room for one of them. An A4 Pacific. Who doesn't like an A4 Pacific? They're very, very wide appealing locomotives. So yeah, they're all welcome additions, and it's nice to have different numbered versions from Bachmann, from any manufacturer as well, to help to build a locomotive fleet. Hello there, Transporting Southeast. Hello to you. And Ted Not Lemon and Honey in Hot Water. Yeah, that's pretty much a hot toddy, but without the toddy bit of the whiskey. When we were in Scotland, actually filming Biggest Little Railway, because I lost my voice partway through the filming, one of the things that really did actually help was hot toddies. So the production crew kept buying me these overnight in the pub. So I think I was a functioning alcoholic for 2 weeks. Me and lots of other people, it must be said. Transporting Southeast, hello to you. Don't worry about being a little bit late. I think I started a little bit early, so don't worry about that. Looking down the list, we've got here the Unknown Warrior LMS Lined Crimson. Now, the base model itself is an older model, but actually I think it looks really good. I don't have one of these Patriots. I do have a Jubilee, which I'm seeing further up the list there with Hood, which is available with and without sound fitting. And it has to be said that there's one of the things I saw in the press releases from Bachmann, that they are planning to release sound fitted and unfitted versions of their models. And the idea behind this is that rather than have a sound fitted model that if you want that particular identity, you have to buy the sound fitted model whether you want it or not. They're moving over to effectively you have a choice to sound fit or not to sound fit from any of the locomotives. At the moment, that the only ones that I've seen, there's 2 steam ones where they've done that out of all of these. But with the diesels, I think because it's a lot easier to fit the sound chips into the diesel locomotives, there's a lot more space going on there. That is something that has already been rolled out. The Unknown Warrior. I know that that was is the new build. It was at Worley a couple of years ago, 3 years ago maybe. It wasn't there this year gone. It wasn't there the year before, but I believe it was there the year before that. I didn't go to that particular Worley. I say it was there. It was in the process of where it was up to in the build. So it's nice to see that Bachmann are introducing models of this new build locomotive. And when that locomotive does finally go into traffic, there's going to be models available for people to buy those models. And it's something that is obviously going to help the revenue raising at Preserved Railways, for example. They're going to be able to sell models of the locomotive when it's there visiting. So I think that's it's a really good move, and it's maybe something that some of the other people who've been discussing the Bachmann releases maybe haven't mentioned, is that there's more than what meets the eye in the Bachmann releases. And for me, that is something that can only be applauded from Bachmann, that there's this potential to support preserved lines and their revenue earning through releasing models such as the Unknown Warrior. Now, I'm looking here, we've got that 51215. Now, interesting. It doesn't say in this list that it's sound fitted, but I'm looking at the catalogue numbers. We've got, if I move the mouse pointer, 31215, that's the base version. But down here, we've got 31215 SF. Now, a little word on this. Again, I saw this in the press release from Bachmann, that they're changing the terminology. So whereas before, I think they would have a DS suffix to denote digital sound, they've now changed this to SF, meaning sound fitted. And this ties in with this idea that they're going to have an ordinary version and a sound fitted version of the same model. So just a quick spot in there. Moving further down, and just for the benefit of people who just joined us, I'm going to be looking at some more of the pictures of some of the ones that aren't illustrated on this website, which is RM Web, a little bit later on, but they're coming off a different website and I can't get them as big as these ones are here. So I want to focus on what have been picked out by Andy York of RM Web as being some of the more significant models. And I'm going to focus on these because the pictures are really good. Now, we've got Class 37.5 refurbished West Coast Rail Company Maroon. Now, what I will mention about the 37s, because I've seen some murmurs about this online, is that a lot of people were hoping that Bachmann were going to retool the Class 37. Now, I've mentioned this before when I did a review on, I think it's 37116, which for me is the newer version. I don't know whether it's like the newest version, but I bought the Bachmann 37s when they first came out. I had Loch Rannoch, which I've since sold because Brian badgered me into selling it to him, and then he immediately sold it on. So I don't know what that was about. But then I've also got Eisteddfod Genedlaethol, something like that. I think Devan, you're going to probably correct me on my pronunciation there. But I think the Eisteddfod is the correct first part, but the second part, Genedlaethol, something like that. I've got that in Regional Railways livery, and I've got Bulliday in Intercity livery. But a lot of people were hoping that they would retool it again. That hasn't happened, but I have to say that I find the Bachmann 37 to actually be a really good model anyway. I quite like the first release. A lot of people whined at the time about things like them only being 4 wheels out of the 6 on each bogie driven, and there was also something to do with the body shell signs. The way the tumble home at the bottom wasn't quite right, but to my eyes, actually, they were a pretty reasonable model. So I was quite close. Eisteddfod Genedlaethol. That probably really grates to native Welsh speakers' ears, and I have to claim, to make a confession. My mother is Welsh. Her first language was Welsh. I say was Welsh. Until the age of 4, she only spoke Welsh, and then she learned English. Now, it's safe to say that English will now be her first language all these years later, but she still speaks fluent Welsh. My grandmother, until she died, her first language always was Welsh, and I remember going and staying with them, and she'd talk to the neighbours in Welsh, because that was just how everybody talked. So I picked up odd words here and there. We're looking down here. Again, you can see in this list, we've got the mix of sound fitted and unsound fitted. Something that I did say, actually, in my review of the TTS chips, I'm looking there for the sound fitted Class 20. Now, I need to see, what I need to see is prices on these, and I can get that from when we move over to another website. What I'm going to do is compare the prices, and that is because the Bachmann Class 20 fitted with the Hornby TTS chip is something which I think it offers better value for money to get a sound fitted 20. In my opinion, if the price is right, that's the better way to go. The Hornby Class 20 TTS chip is a particularly good sound. Welsh language is dying, but schools are trying to save it. Actually, there's been a drive to save the Welsh language, just to go off, to skewer off on a tangent there. And the Welsh language, when I lived in Wales, because I did live there for a while, it has to be said that one of the things that we did in school was Welsh lessons. We had Welsh lessons. I do still have some books that I got, children's books in Welsh, because I was only it was infant school, so it's a long time ago. But certainly they were quite keen to keep the Welsh language alive. And if you ever go to Wales, the road signs are all bilingual, so it's actually quite easy to pick up a few bits and pieces from that. And what's interesting, I find, when Welsh doesn't have the word that they want, like a more modern word, they pinch the English word but spell it according to like Welsh Welsh spelling rules. So if you ever see a taxi in Wales, it's spelled TACSI, but it's pronounced taxi. And ambulance, it's pronounced ambulance if you see an ambulance in Wales, but it's spelt a little bit differently. And once you get your head round that, and it's a lot easier when you hear people speaking Welsh, you start to pick out these English words, and it becomes a lot easier to understand the gist of what people are talking about when you realise that that's how a lot of Welsh works. And also, like, going the other way, English has pinched a lot of words from Welsh. Let's have a look. A lot of Welsh spoken on Anglesey. Yeah, North Wales seems to be the bastion of Welsh speakers, but certainly in the Swansea Valleys, which is where I'm, my family, well, half my family, my mother's side of the family are from. In the Swansea Valleys, a lot of the older people have Welsh as their first language. Yeah, there we go. Philip Page. English speakers would be like, what? Ambulance? But you've got to get your head around it. It's ambulance. Hi there, Ryan, Worth Valley. Good to have you along there. But we are sort of sliding into a little bit of Quiz Jenny on the Welsh language. I'm looking back up the list there. Train Spotting Southeast just ordered the Peckett B2 in NCB Blue and Bachmann Class 20 in BR Blue. Certainly the Peckett B2, I said this in my overview of the Hornby 2019 announcements, that my prediction is that those B2s are going to sell out remarkably quickly. So if you want one, get your orders in. The Class 20s, I'm going to look at the cost between the non-sound and the sound fitted. In fact, I'm going to go to the Hatton's website. I have no affiliation with Hatton's, although we were talking about the Class C, C-Class Wainwright 060 Southeastern and Chettle Railway lined green, where you see, hopefully, my mouse pointer hovering. £191.21 is the discounted price on that. So sub 200, but it's still a lot. Right, anyway. Let's have a look. Bachmann branch line, Class 20, 32046, 20201, BR Blue with head code box, £118.96 RRP, non-sound fitted, or £199.71 sound fitted. My recommendation on this, in all honesty with you, and I know that at least one person who works at Bachmann do dip in and out of my videos, possibly more. So if you're watching, really sorry, but this is my personal opinion, and I can say this because I'm not affiliated commercially in any way with any of the manufacturers. I don't get review copies. I don't get sent samples or anything like that. I tell it how I see it. And again, I don't have any kind of a commercial relationship with any shops. I don't work super close with any shops. I know I've interviewed a few model shop owners, but I try and do it across the board, firm and fair. But the Hornby TTS Class 20 sound chip is a particularly good sound chip, and for the money, my advice would actually be fit a Hornby sound chip in the Bachmann Class 20, save yourself a bit of money and put that towards something else. Because Defence GWR. A lot of Welsh people can't say Llanfairch Pwllgwyngyll Gill Gogeri Gwendrob Will Anticilio Gogogoch is my butchered version of that. I am aware of that place name. It was apparently created as a bit of a tourist trap during the Victorian period. I think that the actual place name was something like Llanfairch Pwllgwyngyll was the actual place name, and they kind of extended it somewhat. Really just as like a novelty thing. Come and take a train trip to the longest place name in Britain. Transporting southeast, just getting non-sound class 20 as well. Can speak flute Welsh. I presume that's autocorrect has screwed you over. It does me as well. Blooming iPhones. I do hate the spell check, but I've yet to pluck up the courage to turn it off because my spelling is atrocious. And you would have thought, me being a I think I'm up to 13, 14 times published author. And when I say published, as in like a book, I'm many times published in magazines. They're blowing my own trumpet. My books are still available. They're available in all good bookshops and some really bad ones too. But enough about that. Also, incidentally, you might have seen a few of the super chat buttons on the live chat. The reason that they've cropped up is because Zoe, she went, oh, you can click this button. You don't have to give me any money whatsoever. I'm not fishing for money, but I'm just, if you're wondering what that is, that's what that is all about. I've seen other live streams use it. So, when in Rome, just jump in with both feet. Right. Going back to the Bachmann releases, I'm going to bring it up here because it just happens to be there. Bachmann branch line 32-790A, class 37-0. Piccadilly Model Railway by John Warner. Good to see you along too. Sorry to see you go, but you take care as well, and perhaps we'll catch you back here sometime soon. Going back to this, we've got Loch Rannoch. That's one of the Scottish Class 37s. Loch Rannoch is, somewhere up in Scotland. This particular locomotive, as far as I understand it, it's quite unusual for a 37.0 to be in this livery, in the large logo livery, because not very many were painted that way. Some were, including this locomotive, so it is based on a prototype. But I don't think they were in this livery for long before that they went through the 37/4 rebuild program. And the reason for this was so that they could run on the Fort William sleeper but provide electric train heat, because the 37.0s, I believe, are either non-train heat fitted at all or were only steam heat fitted, at least originally. And that's where the Ethels came in, the electric train heat X locomotives, which actually a lot of people thought that Bachmann might actually have released an Ethel to kind of preempt Helgen's release of an Ethel. Bachmann have previously done an Ethel in the full intercity livery, but that was a special for the London Toy Fair. I do have one downstairs. We've also got 37s, loads of different liveries here. Colas Rail Freight. We've already seen the West Coast Rail Company ones as well. Now here's another one. We've got the Class 40 in BR Blue, £152.96. It's getting an expensive hobby. We've also got the sound-fitted ones for £229. Now, I haven't tried, this is a little bit of a proviso, I haven't tried the Hornby TTS Class 40 chip, but I am aware that it is out there somewhere. And again, if that sound chip is your cup of tea, if it's your bag and it sounds fine to you, then that's a cheaper way to go. And with the prices that these things are starting to go for, any way that you can save money without compromising other things, really, it's probably a good way to go. Because you think, if you TTS sound fit 3 or 4 locomotives, the amount that you've saved will pay for another locomotive. Right. I'm going to go back to the RM webpage, because as you see, The pictures are a lot bigger. Now, the Class 66s. Right. Was that Mr. Choo Choo? Crikey, Jenny, you know some stuff, don't you? I feel quite inadequate. Oh, don't worry about it. No, I tend to be a bit of a sponge for random snippets of information. Now, I wish that this extended to learning things like foreign languages, or all of the monarchs of the UK, or understanding the Israeli-Palestinian war. I've read the book, can't remember a lot of the details, but with random bits of knowledge, they seem to soak in and stay there. And I think as well, I've got a particular interest in model railways, so I soak up a lot of these bits and snippets of information. But the Class 66, this is one that Hattons have announced their own version, and this is not commissioned from any other manufacturer as far as I can tell. They've actually gone out, they've got a producer in China who is producing for them and just them an all singing, all dancing Class 66. And I believe that this has caused a bit of friction between Bachmann and Hattons. But what is interesting is that the RRP for the Class 66s, and they're not really my bag, I have to say. I don't own any model Class 66s and I don't really have much of an interest in them. But the RRP for the Bachmann 66, has gone down, I'm led to believe, by about £20. And I think that is part of the friction between Hattons and Bachmann. This is not a retooled model from Bachmann. I'm led to believe that the Bachmann version is a pretty good model. It's been around a while. But this is sort of about parking tanks on lawns, as it were. So looking through here, I'm seeing the same liveries cropping up as what Hattons have done. And what's interesting is that some of these liveries, if not all these liveries, you have to get a license to reproduce them on a commercially sold model. Now, if you painted your own model in these liveries, it's not an issue. Nobody's going to come after you saying that you've infringed somebody's copyright. However, if you bulk made them and sold them for a profit, for a commercial enterprise, then you might get chased. So Bachmann have gone and they have got a license to produce these liveries. So we must also assume that Hattons have as well. So I think that it's interesting that the people who own the rights to the liveries have granted this reproduction rights to two completely separate companies, i.e. Bachmann and Hattons. And it'll be interesting to see what happens in this. It's a lot about who gets to the market first. We've said that before about the Hornby versus Oxford Rail, Adams Radial. We're going to see it again with the Dapol stroke rails versus the Hornby Terrier. And I think that whoever gets to market first is going to be the clear winner. Now, Bachmann have the advantage. They've already done the model. The model itself, they've got all the tooling, it's all there. All they have to do is to find a production slot, which they will do if they want to park their trains on Hattons' lawn on this one. And I can say that because I'm not commercially affiliated in any way with Hattons or with Bachmann for that matter. My feeling is that the Bachmann is going to make sure they get to market first, and it could be interesting what happens. I don't know whether we're going to see a drop in RRP from Hattons on their version. Similarly, we've not yet, as far as I'm aware, seen a drop in RRP from Rail/Dapol on their version of the Terrier, and I really think that we're going to see them going head to head with who can get out there first. Let's have a look. Just having a quick look at the comments. Train Sporting Southeast got cab ride on Scotsman and surprise from a lot. Model Railways, couple steam and a few bits, and from Rest Family got 500 squids. My word, this is how ordered new locos. Yeah, sometimes it's the best way of doing it. I know, going way back to the dark ages when I was young. I used to, have a very firm opinion, like, this is what I want. Now, I've got a birthday coming up or Christmas coming up. I don't want crummy presents that actually are like, oh, thank you very much, Auntie. Get rid of that. But if you kind of direct people in the right direction, then you end up with a present that you actually really, really want. And it's a good way to get some of the big ticket items by doing it that way. Now, we're looking down the list here. We've got the return of a number of DMUs. Now, we've got no pictures in this section, so I'm going to go back to the Hatton's website purely for the pictures. These are in a different order from the other website. So, what's interesting, the Bachmann branch line, class 66, 123.21. Now, I don't know whether, and this is pure supposition, I haven't looked into this, because the Bachmann website, if we go to that, is, come here, you. I think my browser is, there. Oh, no, there we are. Sorry, I'm getting all my tabs mixed up. That's all we're getting from Bachmann at the moment. It's like, oh, whoopee-doo, you've got a catalogue out. Any chance you could show us what's in it? So in terms of RRPs, I don't know. All we've got here to go on is the prices that Hatton's are listing these for. So I don't know whether there may be a little bit of swings and roundabouts on prices for the 66s. In that could actually be the RRP. Because I'm sure that Hatton's would have no vested interest in making their own versions that have been announced look less favourable, but that may not be the case. And looking back up, I think somebody did say, Devant's GWR, Hornby have done a number of the same as well. That is true. I think the Biffa one is definitely one that Hornby have either announced or have done. But it has to be said that the Hornby Class 66... Sorry, I just heard a bang outside. Hello? No. It's either the cat or... I've got the CCTV monitors on. I've not seen anybody try and chivvy their way in through the front door, but it may yet happen. If this big hand sort of goes, ugh, then you'll know I'm being burgled. But as of the moment, everything's all right. It could be the cat, actually. The cat's down there messing about. Normally does, attention seeking. But RRPs, let's have a look. DMUs, right. Gosh, these are getting very, very expensive. Let's have a look. Let's over there. Yeah. Oh, God. Good God. Class 101, the Met Camel 2-car DMU and BR Green digital sound fitted, $271.96. Now, the Class 101 has quite a distinctive sound, I believe. So there are some economy chips out there, and I've put to the test one that deals with, you can set it in the C. Oh, hello Dundee Road, good to see you there. And Mr. Choo Choo, a cat burglar. The only thing that the cat would burgle is a source of food, no doubt. She also likes chewing paper. The economy sound chip was about £60. I bought it through one of the online box shifters. So let's have a look. £60. Actually, it's not much of a saving. I think actually with the DMUs, the price, the additional price for having it sound fitted over unsound fitted is actually, I could say that's probably about justified. You might be able to get it a few quid cheaper, you might not. So I'd say probably go with that sound fitting if you want sound fitted. But some of these prices, I mean, we're looking £220.96 there for the Class 150 2-car DMU and BR Provincial Blue. Now, it's an interesting model insofar as this particular livery has been previously done as a special commission for Trains for You, who I believe are, I think they're in Peterborough. They did it as a special commission some time ago, and because this is a type of model that doesn't particularly interest me, I haven't looked it up. But what you may find, it might be worth, if you want that livery of the Class 151 in BR Provincial Blue. Hold on, I'm going to sneeze. I just need to charge up from the light. No, it's failed me. It'll come out in a moment. Probably when I least expect it. My eyes are starting to water now. So, obviously, I look terrible because I'm terribly ill, but That's disgusting, isn't it? Oh. To go back to this, if you want the Provincial Blue Class 150/1, check trains for you. They may have sold out, they may not have sold out, and if they have not sold out, this is an opportunity to get that livery for what will be a lot cheaper than the current RRPs and even the discounted prices from Bachmann. And this is something that I found when Model Zone did the TPO coaches. Thank you, Philip Page. That's very, very nice of you. Thank you for lying about my appearance and saying I look nicer than I do. I'm terribly, terribly ill, so I've got a bright red nose from blowing it so much, and I probably sound really husky and like I'm talking with a blocked nose. But yes, when Model Zone introduced the TPO coaches, they had an exclusivity for a period of time, then it passed into the main range. What I found was that even though Model Zone was selling them at the full RRP because it was their special commission, what actually happened was that when the main range version came out, prices had gone up by so much that it was technically cheaper to go into Model Zone and buy the ones that they had left because they were coming out at £5 to £10 cheaper than what everybody was selling the main range TPOs in the same liveries, just a different running number, because of the marching increase in prices. So again, this goes back to you can find yourself some good value prices if you go and frisk some of the smaller model shops that may have had some slower moving stock in. They might not have been the cheapest when it was new, but they're now the only people who have it in stock brand new. And this is something that I found. There's a shop in Bolton. It's called Holton Model Centre. I did an interview with the lovely gentleman that runs it, but he had a lot of new old stock Bachmann that he's just had in stock since it was brand new in the catalogue, but he hasn't put his prices up. So you can get wagons, like, I was buying brand new wagons for like £6-7 because that's the price they used to be. And also there was a lot of locomotives there. I know Brian went in and cleaned him out of a lot of the DMUs and stuff. I think he got some of the 150s. In fact, there was a livery. I think it was the Northern Rail or First North Western. I can't remember because I don't really pay much attention to the more modern stuff. But he said, I can't believe it. The guy's got 3 in stock. Yeah, on Holton Lane, that's the one. It's just called Bolton, either Holton Model Centre or Bolton Model Centre. He doesn't really do internet. I think he does have a web page, but you can't buy anything through it. But certainly that place is a gold mine for older stuff. A lot of it is actually, after I mentioned that he had all this, a lot of people must have been there because he had one of the Bachmann 280 War Department locomotives, but in the desert khaki livery that Bachmann introduced probably about 15 years ago. And it went literally overnight. So there are other people who kind of became wise, but there's still a lot of stuff there. And he's a very friendly gent. I have no commercial affiliation with him. I pay whatever he asks for stuff when I go in there. I don't get discounts or anything based on people I send there. Just mainly remote control cars on his website. The model railway stuff is all hidden away upstairs in the shop. He doesn't draw attention to it, and that's probably why a lot of it's still there. SS Standartenführer, set up 3-rail double-O layout. Good for you. I've actually videoed myself setting up 3-rail layout quite some time ago, actually. That was for the benefit of my father on a hinged board. It's sort of hinged down. Let's have a look. Oh, Trainsporting South East. Well, I'm glad I went to the Bilbao Railway, so I got Peckett and Oxford rail vans for £20. You paid £20 for a Peckett and Oxford rail van, or is that the vans were £20? I presume. I mean, if it's one of the earlier, I think did you mention in the last live stream it was Dodo or something that you got, which certainly you can't get for love nor money these days. So I think you got yourself a good deal there. But yeah, Holton Model Centre, well worth going and visiting and having a frisk. His stocks are much depleted, but as you know, Peckett was £87.99. That's still a good price. I'm telling you now, if that was one of the first release, which was Dodo and Leaf Green, Manchester Ship Canal number 11, and Palmer and is it Palmer and Harvey? Huntley and Palmer, the biscuit people, the blue one. Actually, if you found the H&P blue one, they're the ones that people want. You can't get them for love nor money. I've seen the Manchester Ship Canal one change hands for £170 second hand. So I think you got yourself a really good bargain there. So well done. Yeah, I know what you mean there, Mr. Choo Choo, about no more room. Hornby 003 rail does require quite a bit of space, and it's a very flat board. You know, it doesn't like gradients or changes in gradients, but there's something magical about the rattle of tin plate. But you're all here for the Bachmann announcements. I'm looking down here. This is always a telltale. Having photographs of the real units rather than pictures of the models or pre-production models. This means that these models are a long way off in the future. I only have 003 rail crossing left now, Philip Page. Oh gosh, I've got loads of those in a box somewhere. Sadly, they only ever made a single track one. It would have been much easier to make use of the Hornby 00 level crossing if they'd have made a double track one. Now, I know that somebody makes a reproduction one, but they're very expensive. I have seen them for sale. And effectively, I think they do it by they're either a complete new casting or they take a single track one and they insert an extra piece in that. Oh yeah, the smell of the sparks on 3 rail is actually ionized particles. It's not actually all that healthy for you. You got the Huntley packet for 79 from Bluebell on Sunday as well. Oh my word. Legend! All hail the legend. In fact, I need to go full screen for this. You, sir, are a legend. How did you manage 80 quid? They're going for like 3 or 4 times that on eBay. Gosh, if they had more than one, I'd have snapped them up. You know, get them on eBay, because if you don't, somebody else will. Well done. Right. Let's have a look down this list. Derby Lightweight reappeared and all over green. Those got remaindered last time that they were actually in the catalogue. So I'm not sure how well that's going to fare. Certainly not 195.46. The Thumper has reached the main range. I believe it was originally a special commission for Kernow Model Centre. Oh gosh, two. Again, if you want a Class 205 Thumper, I have a feeling that they may be cheaper to get the first production run if the Kernow Model Centre still have any available. In all honesty, I would say that would be your first port of call. And the added bonus is that they will have them available right now as opposed to having to wait for these to come out from Bachmann. Now, these are EMUs. Bachmann branch line, the Class 411, the 4SEP. They're doing 2 of these. You can either have it in BR blue and grey, weathered, or BR green with small yellow panels, weathered. It's a 4-coach train. I got a catalogue number 31-427, the initial production run of the blue-grey one. At the time, the RRP was, if I remember correctly, about £90. It was at $89.99. Or certainly that's what the shops were selling it for. Look at the price now, £382.46. Why don't they just, why do they need that 46 pence? I look at that and I think, why? Why not just call it 382 quid? I mean, instead of messing about with the pence. That's very, very weird. They're very expensive, and it's interesting, actually. I have to say that the Class 411s were remaindered at the end, and that doesn't bode well for these selling at that price. And I think if you really do want one of these, my tip would probably be to hang out for them to reach the discounted stage, because I suspect that they may get discounted. Transporting southeast, last one afraid, new stock coming in, so cut down price. He had in back. No one knew. I just asked. It was a replacement for someone Did not get, so I got it. That is really good find, actually. What you've got there is that's the holy grail. That's like the Hornby equivalent of trying to find this Bachmann locomotive, the C-Class in full SE&CR livery. Just holding that up there. You know, that is the equivalent of finding one of those, whilst at the same time they're being sold on eBay for hundreds and hundreds of pounds, and finding it at the original RRP. So that's a good find there. I think, you know, legend for finding them. And also kudos on the Bluebell Railway for not charging a premium. You know, it's nice to see that, you know, they could easily have charged a lot more for that and probably sold it. So kudos on them for actually... got that one as well on Sunday. Did you buy everything? You can't buy what with the brass dome? Come on, you can't have found that out on Sunday as well. The going rate for them last time I looked was about £500 on eBay. Don't tell me that you did. You please tell me you did. Was it this version or was it? I think it's number 251 in the plainer livery with the green dome. Were around, and I think you still can get them slightly more readily. Let's just have a look down this list. Class 419's back. That is actually a really expensive price. We've got £127.46. Now, the Class 419 motor luggage van is in essence a motorised coach, singular. It's one, just a coach. There's not even really an interior because they were designed for adding extra luggage capacity onto the boat trains. And the way that these worked is they would run off third rail electric. They'd normally be attached to something like the 411s. And they would provide extra luggage capacity on the boat trains to, I think, Southampton docks. But because they also had batteries in them, which would charge off the third rail, when they got to the station at Southampton, and everybody else would sort of trek to the boat, which I think was Southampton Marine was the station, the motor luggage vans could detach from the train and were therefore able to get much closer to the waiting cruise liners to be unloaded. And that was the purpose of them having the batteries. It also meant that it was quite possible for them to work off the juice. And I think there's one place where, somewhere near Basingstoke possibly, there was a line that they were rostered to go through which was not third rail electrified. And the idea was that the driver had to be very careful how they drove them, but they could make it through on battery power. So they did work off the juice from time to time, but principally they were designed for working down to the docks to get the luggage to the cruise liners. Now, I'm looking through the coaches here. I'm going to go back and see if... what have we got picture-wise? So I'm going to deal with the ones I've got the big pictures of first. And this livery, the Royal Mail Letters livery, we finally got a Gov in that livery. I think that it was done as a twin pack for Invicta models, along with Sheringham Network Southeast, Red Hill to Tunbridge. I presume that's the route that the 419s were working off the juice, as it were. To go back to what we've got on screen here, we've got the Gov in the Royal Mail Letters. It's previously appeared in this livery, presumably a different running number, in a twin pack along with I think it was a BG full brake, and that I think was a set for Invicta models. We've also got Royal Mail Letters, the sorting van. That is quite nice looking. Again, this is the model which Model Zone originally had an exclusive of, it, as far as I'm aware. And I've got the blue-grey one that Model Zone did. But they were a lot cheaper back then, even though we lamented, like, oh my word, the first coach going above £30. Yeah, how we wish now. As Transporting Southeast, I got one, what is it, at Bluebell for £150, and a couple pre-orders later with discounts got £50 for my birthday money. That's actually pretty good going there. I think you have really got a good haul. Sheringham Network Southeast, yeah, during engineering work when power off. Right, that makes more sense. And apparently what I've heard is that the drivers had to be very careful, and they dreaded being signal checked, because if they were signal checked, certainly if the batteries were starting to get a little bit hazy, then they could end up getting trapped in section. I think they were latterly also, at least some of them were used as de-icing units and shunters at depots. They were used because of the battery capacity, charge up off the third rail and then shunt things in and out of sheds. So they were actually pretty versatile. Stuart Muir, hi Jenny, look at the Graham Farish N-gauge range. Yeah, we covered that a little bit back at lunchtime when these were initially announced, and I must admit, N-gauge is not my thing, so I kind of did gloss over it, but I did comment on the Class 14, and you N-gauge modelers, that's where you luck out, is that you get a main range Class 14 from Graham Farish, and now you're getting sound for it. Whereas in 00 we had to put up with the Hatton Special Commission from Helgen, which was a lot more fragile and had a lot of issues. Certainly the first run, and also like a lot of Helgen models, they shed bits and pieces. Right, we've got a lot of Mark IIs in Virgin Trains livery. I know they're going to be popular. I'm going to go back to the Hatton's website. No affiliation other than a satisfied customer. No commercial attachment with them. So what you get is my own opinions, not tainted in any way by any commercial deals or exclusivity deals. But looking down this list, what surprised me is the Bachmann branch line Mark 1 BG in Intercity Executive. The reason for this is that up until recently, Bachmann was still trying to shift old stock of this particular coach, and they'd reached in some places discounted down to 10 quid a pop. I know that I bought the Regional Railways one as well, did the same, and they were pretty much the last Intercity Executive or Regional Railways liveried coaches that were available in Mark 1 from Bachmann for a long, long time, and they ended up fire-sailed out. So, to see it now suddenly back in the range, not even with any other Intercity liveried Mark 1s to go with it. I'm just looking down the list. No, don't see any others. That is a strange one. I predict 39-180A, the BR Mark 1 BG brake gangway BR Intercity Executive at £40.76. They were discounting those to a tenner not more than maybe 18 months ago. I don't think that's going to sell well. It has to be said, although the ScotRail one looks interesting. I don't think they've done the ScotRail before. It's similar to Regional Railways, but not quite. When you put them side by side, you can see the difference. So that's interesting to see. In fact, yes, the catalogue number there, 39-189, no suffix. That's a completely new livery, actually, from Bachmann branch line on that one. And it's interesting, actually. I did a video, all the Mark 1 BG liveries, and I didn't do ScotRail, but now it's been announced. That video is now out of date because it didn't include that one. Looking down the list, we've got another rerun of the Royal Mail Letters one, and I'm going to come to... I need to govern BR Midland Region Maroon, Diffens GWR. Well, ask and you will be provided, because there it is. Now, interestingly enough, before you balk at the £40 plus, what I have to say here is that this was released as a Model Zone exclusive quite some time ago. I mean, it tells you how long ago, because Model Zone sadly went bust. But this livery was out there, so you may find you can get this for a more favourable price second-hand. Have a good hunt through places like eBay, second-hand shops. Obviously, you're not going to get any from Model Zone because they don't exist anymore. But I do remember that this was originally a livery that was a Model Zone exclusive. A big hello there to Sam's Trains. Nice to have you along. Let's just have a look now. I'm going to go back to back to the list here. The Mark 1 Gov General Utilities Van BR Blue Property Board. Actually, I'm going to bring that one up because this That's an interesting livery, as far as I'm aware, not appeared from Bachmann before, and it's something a bit different. I really do like, the this sort of weird, almost departmental liveries, and it's nice to see that Bachmann, as well as catering for the run of the mill things, that they've gone for these slightly more esoteric things. So that's one I'm going to watch. Actually, I have to say, I do like my Govs. I've been buying them since they first came out. Let's have a look down there. We've got the Royal Mail letters that we brought up before. Interesting. We've got the ScotRail Mark IIs, so they'll presumably go with the Mark 1 BG, because as we all know, there were no Mark II BGs, and part of the reason for that was, I suppose, there were so many Mark 1 BGs that it felt no need for it. We've also got that's what the ScotRail Saltire coach looks like. I was wondering about this actually at lunchtime when I did the live rundown, and all we had to go off was a list because nobody could get any pictures because the Bachmann website fell over, and actually now it's back up. I'm going to go and have a look actually. Have they actually put any details up? I'm told by somebody if you do a bit of Google foo on stuff, you can get some more information. But no, we don't really get any more information than that. So actually, I'm going to close that tab. But there we have that does look fair. Open ScotRail Saltire. Not entirely sure what period that's from. It looks post-privatisation, but it's nice to finally put a picture with the listing. So I'm going to go back to my main listings and actually let's have a look at some of the wagons. When I've seen some of the pictures, I must admit that I'm going to go here actually, back to the Hatton site, because they've got all the pictures. So I'm going to scroll. Wait, no, I'm scrolling the wrong way. I'm going to try and find some of the wagons. Here we are. We're down to the wagon. Oh, actually, before I go to the wagons, one quick thing on the coaches. We've got a re-release of the South Eastern and Chatham Railway 60-foot birdcage brake composite coaches, and the brake thirds and the composite lavatories. And this is the Wellington Brown livery. This is much less ornate than the previous versions, which I did a full box opening and review on those. I'm looking at the prices. They're an eye-watering RRP of basically, I'm going to call it 68 quid. Bachmann, 4 pence. Come on, make it easy for people. 68 quid with enough money left over for, I'm going to say 4 penny chews, but I'm getting quite old, so I'm not even entirely sure whether you can get penny chews anymore. In fact, when I was very small, you could get halfpenny chews, halfpenny chews. And there used to be some sweets that you got several for a penny. I don't think they do that anymore. The world is much less generous. Sam's tricky. No idea how Jenny did this at 12. We were still struggling with it at 3. I'll be honest with you. I knew that the Bachmann website was going to fall over. It's one of those things that they should have learnt from what happened to Hornby. Hornby's website became unmanageable last week. So you would have thought that Bachmann would have made provision for this. That said, maybe they did. Maybe the demand was so overwhelming. But when you go to the Bachmann website, there's nothing there still. There's no information to see. I've trolled through the catalogue listings as well, and they haven't updated that. So it was a bit of a damp squib. But I had a backup website that I consulted, which was RM Web, and I knew that Andy York had his man on the inside, Phil Parker, who was actually down at the launch, so he was being fed information via telephone, and that's how we got a list. So I was just working off the RM Web list. RM Web. I'm surprised that more people don't go there. It's my go-to place for a lot of information, and I do name check it quite a lot. So old halfpennies. Well, old halfpennies. I hope you don't mean the pre-decimal ones there. which would have been worth 1 3/4 new pence. And it all gets very complicated because an old shilling, which was 12 old pence, became 5 new pence when decimalisation turned up. But halfpenny pieces, which looks a bit like a 1 pence piece but smaller, they went out of circulation in 1983, which I think is the same year that the original pound coin came into circulation. Before that, we had pound notes, and you may see some old people still talking about the pound notes. Well, 1983 was the changeover point for that. But certainly, it's pretty much expected that Bachmann are doing the full fat version. I keep holding this up actually because I suppose Smug Me has one of these still. I was lucky enough to be able to have one pre-ordered when they came out last time. But Bachmann are finally, they've listened to people releasing that RRP over 200 quid, mind. So there's some coaches to go with it. I believe that the more ornate Southeastern and Chatham Railway bird cages, they are now pretty much sold out everywhere. You can still get the crimson ones, and I think the olive green ones are still out there to be had. But the SE&CR ones, they're certainly a lot harder to get. You might find them at some of the low traffic shops. We've talked about the Bolton Model Centre at Holton Lane Ends. There are a lot of others actually. I went into, I forget the name, if anybody is watching from Morley, I'm sure that they will update me, but I was actually going to a place over the road from it for business, and it's like a model shop. So the magnetic attraction of the train sucked me in, and I noticed that they still had on the shelves a lot of older stock. And if you go to 53A models in Hull, in Hessel in Hull, which I used to go to a lot. My grandmother lived in Hull, so I used to go there in the good old days. Back in the 1980s, I also frequented 53A models. They quite often have a lot of stock that hangs around a bit. So if there's an older model that you want, sometimes it does pay to shop around and support some of these smaller model shops. Right, looking at the wagons, right, we've got the Bachmann one plank wagon has appeared for, I believe, the first time ever in Great Western livery. They have had the Conflat out before. In fact, the Conflat came out initially in Great Western livery and BR livery, and I believe there have been reruns of the Great Western liveried Conflat. But this is the first time I've seen the one plank wagon turn up in Great Western Railway livery, coupled there with a single AF container. I do like the one plank wagon. I've got quite a few LMS examples, and I've also got BR versions. Now, I think it has been released once previously in Northeastern Railway livery. Now, I a little niggly thought that I could be wrong on that. I'd never seen it in Southern Railway livery, but what we're seeing here, 37481, and actually the fact that there's no suffix letter on that, I have to say, probably suggests that the Northeastern version hasn't appeared either. Mark, Jake, I do like supporting the local shed on Bury Old Road, Manchester. I have also been to that one. In fact, if you've ever bought Hornby 00 from there, probably about 5-6 years ago, he was the person that my father and I sold a huge amount of our Hornby 00 collection to. So if you ever saw, he had there's one of only 52 ever made City of Nottingham locomotives. They're basically the Duchess of Montrose, the coronation class. He had through his hands a City of Nottingham. They are super, super rare. The one that he had used to belong to me. Let's have a look. Right. Transporting Southeast. I think it's going to be Hattons and Rails of Sheffield and Heritage Rail Shops when all private models closes. Oh, that's a bit harsh. I think that there's going to be still a lot of model shops survive. Arcadia in Shaw, I do go to there a lot. You probably hear me mention. In fact, I had a phone call from Tim. I'm not commercially affiliated to Tim in any way. I just happen to go there quite a lot because my work office is in Rochdale, so I can normally kind of sneak out there quite readily. So I go there quite a lot. But he rang me just to let me know that my pre-order for the Oxford Rail Great Eastern Railway wartime austerity grey N7 was in. So yeah, oh, Philip Page, I use Bolton Model Mart. I do as well. I do support Bolton Model Mart. They're in there. I think it's is it their 40th or 50th year? It might be their 40th year. I do get on very, very well there. Normally just wax lyrical with him and offered him a bit of advice on things to stock, things to not stock as many of. A few bits and pieces. I think the Wainwright H class, I suggested to him it might be worthwhile to increase his orders, and he sold them out, and he was one of the last places around that still had them in at the original selling price. So like I said, it pays to support your local model shop. They make a great cup of tea. A lot of the model shops do, actually. The first thing that I was offered when I walked into the model shop that I found in Morley and Leeds, they said, "Oh, do you want a brew?" So a lot of these small model shops will make you a drink whilst you're there. Certainly, I always get one out of Arcadia if I go in there. They always offer. But back to the Bachmann. The Snowdrift Salt, I've had a good close look at this, actually, the enlargement, and then I went and checked my Snowdrift Salt, and I'm hoping that the number will change between this picture that you're seeing on your screen and the model actually hitting the shelves. But number 306 is the same running number that Snowdrift Salt Wagon appeared in last time. So Bachmann, I do know that the area rep does dip in and out of some of these videos. So if you're watching, please, please, please tell them, don't repeat the number, because it's really annoying when you actually buy these wagons to run in a rake, and it turns out they're the same running number as one you've already got. So change that running number, even if one digit different. 307 or 305 is fine, or even just lose one of the digits. Have number 30. I don't care, but don't produce it with the number 306, because the last time you did it, it had that running number. That is actually the 33 prefix catalogue number, which denotes pre-Bachmann branch line wagons. I know it's billed here as Bachmann branch line, but whenever you see the models with the 33 code, they've been in Bachmann's range for a long, long time. Originally, there was actually a 33 coded version for pretty much all these wagons. I know the one plank wagon had a 33 coded counterpart, and it's really, a lot of it's down to the underframe. When they went to the 37 series wagons, the underframe was completely retooled. We got the NEM pockets for the couplings, but the Salt Wagon was a particularly good model, it has to be said. I'm going to start my second can of Coke, because all this talking is giving me a dry mouth. But the Salt Wagon actually is pretty good. It does have its foibles and limitations, but one of the things I have noticed, and this was the Harbin Hobbies special commissioned versions, they commissioned local area versions. Excuse me, so things like Leith General Warehousing and Distillers Company Limited. They actually had Bachmann print the roofs with some of the roof hatch detail, which isn't present on the model. And it was a good halfway house, it has to be said. And in all honesty, the base wagon itself, I don't think is too bad. Yes, it's not entirely up to modern standards, but it's not an atrocious wreck. It's not like the cattle trucks that they're putting out, the ex-mainline ones in LMS and North Eastern Railway liveries, and it's so too short. It's unreal. This wagon actually does pass muster. Excuse me. We've got the Class B anchor-mounted tank wagon in a new livery that I think it's only just come out. And then we've got 14-ton tank wagon, Crossfield Chemicals Green. Now, Walton's Trains in Altrincham is not a shop I've ever been to, but I've seen their adverts in the back of the Railway Modeler. They did a triple pack of this very wagon. So I'm just going to bring that up. And it's 3 different wagons with 3 different running numbers. I think it may even be lightly weathered. but they've had those in stock for an awfully long time, and certainly comparatively recently I did still see an advert for them. So again, support the smaller model shops. If this is a particular livery that interests you, it's well worth considering that Walton Models of Altrincham, who I believe are also very big on stocking the Walthers kits, the American outline stuff. So perhaps combine that with an order for some of the Walthers kits if there's something you're trying to get hold of. But you can get a triple pack of these for what will now be quite a competitive price. So just a top tip there to look out for. And I also must check the running number on that. Do check it carefully, because that running number, could it be one of the 3 that was in that bulk pack? Worth checking. Then we've got ICI tank, National Mobile Silver. I think that's National Benzol, it actually says on the wagon. And then we've got reruns of the venerable 16-ton mineral wagon. These, to be honest, it's a great model. There's not really a lot that can be said bad about these, if anything at all. They were one of the earlier wagons in the Bachmann range, and they are so good compared to the previous 33 prefix series wagons. The coal wagons that Bachmann used to do were atrocious, and I believe I just gave mine away. When Bachmann brought out, in about 1997, they brought out the 16-ton mineral wagon in the branchline range. I think it was one of the it appeared in the 1997 catalogue, and it was one of their flagship new models to launch the 37 series wagons, and it still holds its own. It is such a good wagon, but they keep bringing these out, and they're really good for rake building. You don't need to have multiples of the same running number, because they produce so many of these. As we'll see later on, they're up to a J suffix on some of these. There's also a lot of special commissions. They've done a lot of triple packs as well. I don't have a complete collection of them, it has to be said, because I haven't bought every single one that's come out. More recently, I've kind of slackened off a bit, just because, you know, your money's got to spread further, and the prices have gone up. We're looking at here an RRP of £18.66. That's with load, so we're probably looking, I'm just going to look down and see if we can get one without a load, just to get a sense of the RRP. Sadly not. There probably is one we might come to a little bit later on. Excellent model shop at Bettysecoid Station. Yeah, I'll go with that. Somebody's going to have to spell that phonetically for me. Gurdon Valley Models. Not familiar with that one. Aaron Izzard. Oh wow, this is new to me. When did you start streaming, Jen? Yesterday, actually, my first live stream. I did a test live stream, and so many people actually turned up that we ended up talking for about an hour and 3/4. And then I did a live stream at lunchtime today when these were initially announced. It was quite difficult because we were struggling for pictures. Now we've finally got some pictures through. A lot of these are courtesy of, I have to name check, Hattons. They've managed to get all of the catalogue images from Bachmann, and they've been really super good, actually. It's smashing to see that they've all gone up on their website, and we've got a sense of prices as well, which is something as well which has been lacking from the list that I had to work from on RM Web. But certainly, to go back to the 16-ton mineral wagons, I do go off on tangents. You have to bear with me on this. I'm like that. I'm like Frankie Howard in Up Pompeii. No, it came to pass, and he always kept getting interrupted. I don't think we ever, in the entire series, ever heard the story he was trying to tell in the opening of Up Pompeii. But I think at last count, I had nearly 70 different Bachmann Guida Valley models. Australian shop in New South Wales. Aha. Interesting little bit of trivia. I have a lot of family out in a town called Warrigal, which I believe is near Melbourne. And they're all farmers. Oh yeah, Mrs. Posh Voice. Yes, Zoe was on best behaviour. She did her sweary bit whilst the sound wasn't working. Luckily, we started a bit early just to make sure that things worked. It was probably as well because we were all fixed up and ready and going by 12 when the announcement sort of came through. Aaron Izzard, yep, we're looking at Bachmann's new catalogue then. We're just going down through that. Mrs. Posh Voice, yeah, Zoe was on best behaviour, you didn't hear the swearing. And Kumar, Volvo S850, yeah, that's me. I do have one of those, and I've been restoring it slowly. It used to be my father's car. My father had it for a good many years, and then he managed to get having a brand new Jaguar out of his system. He didn't buy it brand new, but long story short, his father always had a brand new Jaguar when he ran his own business back in the late 1960s. And my dad said, I don't feel that I've been done as well as my father until I have a Jaguar. So he got an S-type Jaguar, which is like the top of the range, 3-litre V6 engine, 6-speed automatic gearbox. It was like riding a cow inside. There was that much leather. It was a boat of a car and desperately unreliable. So he got the Jaguar out of his system. Meanwhile, his old Volvo, I just kept using it. Ran it sort of into the ground. It had a lot of foibles, and then I replaced it because I was putting a lot of mileage on it. And they offered me £100 trade-in. I've told this story before, for scrap for the thing. And I was like, but it works. Then, yeah, but who wants a 20-year-old dinged-up car with 200,000 on the clock? So I kept it. I used it as, I laughably call it, my lockable garden shed with windows. And for about 2.5 to 3 years, it was full of boxes of firewood. I was keeping them dry for the log-burning stove. And then I realised that Volvo 850s were becoming basically quite a rare vehicle because nobody kept them. Certainly the 850S, the sort of the middle of the range model, nobody wanted them, nobody kept them. So it became a rare vehicle. So now I've put it back on the road and I've refurbished it, fixed a lot of its foibles. So that's the story of the Volvo 850. But we're looking here at the slope-sided mineral wagons here. And, oh yeah, I was talking about the RRP of the 16-ton mineral wagons. When they first came out, the RRP was about a fiver. Remember that, 1997. It may even have been about £4.95 was the RRP for these very wagons. So I built up quite a collection of them. I remember griping when they hit £6. And now look at them, like 18, 19 quid. So that's why I no longer buy every single release of the Bachmann 16-ton mineral wagons. The slope-sided ones, we're seeing these in the pre-weathered version. Now, they do this with the tampo printing process, and they've got very, very good at it. When these first started coming out with the tampo printed rust and that, they are amazing. They're still amazing, and it blows me away, the finish on these. Prior to this, Bachmann did experiment with pre-factory weathered wagons, and actually the 16-ton mineral wagons were a good effort, and they did it by having 2 different passes with the airbrush. So they had a close pass where they put little like rust spots on with one blow of the airbrush. So they were like tight little rust spots, and then they were over painting that with a gentle blow over of sort of dirt and stuff, and it was actually quite a good effect. But when the tampo printed ones came out, they were just sort of, they just blew everything else out of the water. Sheringham Net with Southeast, love old Volvos. One day I will have my very own 240. It's interesting you say that. One of my friends, Simon A.C. Martin, you may know him from YouTube or Biggest Little Railway. He's very active. He's got quite a big, actually he's got one of the biggest followings that I've seen of people that I actually know on YouTube. He does the great, the British railway stories or something like that. But anyway, he's mad on Volvos. He actually uses as a daily driver a Volvo 740 Estate G-Reg. He calls it Victor. He was featured on Drive Tribe. He filmed a thing with them. I can tell you about it because it has now been broadcast. But he is Volvo mad. Thumbs up for Simon. I know Dundee Road also knows Simon as well. But Simon, to get back to the Volvo thing, meanwhile, back at the forum, he bought a Volvo 240, rather down at heel, from Lawrence Robbins, who some of you might know as leader of Team on Biggest Little Railway, he had this Volvo. It had been mouldering on his drive, bush growing over it, and kudos to the Volvo. They jump-started it with a fresh battery, and it just started even after, I think Lawrence said it had been there about 7 years. Hadn't even been started in that time. So Simon did some restoration on it. Apparently it didn't need a lot of work whatsoever. The 240s, they weren't called tanks for nothing. They're indestructible. But yeah, teammate, one of the best teams. Yes, 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 Peter. They were one of the best teams, but of course, as everybody knows, Team D, Delta Force, was the best team, led by yours truly. So, swings and roundabouts. Everybody's got their opinion. That's mine. I was the best. Yeah, funnily enough, my first car ever, and again, this will date me, I had an F-Reg Volvo 740 Saloon, and I had it it was sort of like this dark grey, but when you looked at the VIN plate, it was some kind of metallic dark blue, but it looked like a sort of a dark grey colour. I loved that car, as everybody loves their first ever car. I mean, you can imagine a teenager getting this old tank of a car, and I remember thinking of it as quite an old car at the time, but actually it was only about 11, 12 years old when I got it. Nathan Chu, what website is this? This, my friend, is Hatton's that I'm just getting this list from. So not affiliated with Hatton's in any way, but it's a really good source. The lads from Hatton's have been a great bunch and managed to get pictures for everything, so just working from that. Transporting Southeast, Jenny, you never know, you might be on Great Model Railway Challenge Season 2. Yes, I need to make myself really full screen for this. Yes, I might be on Great Model Railway Challenge Season 2. I don't know for certain yet, actually, because they haven't confirmed any of the teams, but things are in hand. I was supposed to be on Series 1 of that, but I, for complicated reasons I'm not going to go into, I left about a month before filming started. So my team, which was Team Sci-Fi, the reason it was Team Sci-Fi was because I'm a sci-fi author. I feel a bit bad about that, about not then being in it, but that's the story behind Team Sci-Fi. But yeah, I might be back. Aaron is at, oh god, the Smexy wink. I don't know, was that a sexy wink? I don't know. We've descended into talking about cars here. Yeah, my first car was a Volvo 740 Estate, registration F965HAM. You never forget the registration of your first car. And I put, I didn't put the full 250,000 miles on it. I put between 204,000 miles and just shy of 250,000 miles on it. And it died because a bearing failed in the back axle. Now, if I'd have known then what I know now, I would have got a back axle out of a wrecker and just replaced it. But, young and foolish, so no money either. And I had the use of an old K-Reg transit van, so I drove that instead for a while. Right, we're looking back down the list. It's nice actually to see the 16-ton slope-sided mineral wagon appearing in the private owner liveries. Yeah, we're getting. Actually, that's a tippler. The Stewart and Lloyd's, that's a tippler, because you see there in the middle, that doesn't have the door. So we've got, these are all pressed steel doors. Bachmann also do the riveted side doors, but I'm not seeing. Yeah, I'm not seeing any riveted side doors in here, just the pressed steel. But it's nice to see the private owner ones because it just gives a bit of variety to a private owner train. We're getting the Class B tankers, the Black Esso and the Black Shell BP. Good to see those. The Ore Wagon is coming out. We're getting the LMS livery. Right, now we're getting to... This is interesting. The LMS 3-plank wagon reappears with a load, and it has to be said that it's the first time I've seen it with a load. I don't know what I think it's supposed to be something like sheeted a sheeted piece of machinery. But the three-plank wagon is really, really good. I remember when Bachmann released this back in the good old days. They released the three-plank wagon in time for the York Model Railway show, and it was like the big reveal at the show that not only was this wagon released for the show, but it was distributed to all of the retailers who were there. Got the two different versions that came out, and it was the BR Bauxite Brown version, and I think it was ICI Lime, but no, Buxton Lime was the other three-plank wagon, and they were just there at the show to buy. So if you went to that York Model Railway show, you were the first people able to buy it and leave with the wagon. I'm not aware of Bachmann particularly doing that anymore. We were hoping that the Class 90 might turn up at Worley. Well, I was at Worley, I saw the Class 90 in the cabinet, but nobody's selling it, still hasn't turned up, so God knows what's going on there. But yeah, I do have a soft spot for the LMS, but not as much as my soft spot for the Southern. And this, first time that the three-plank wagon has appeared in Southern Railway livery. So I think only the Great Western Railway's lacking for having one of these appear in a Great Western livery. I'm not even sure whether they had any three-plank wagons, but to see the three-plank wagon in the Southern Railway livery, this is one of the must-have items for me personally. And I think this goes back to when I was collecting Hornby 00 as a child. The Southern Railway wagons and locomotives for the big four, they were like gold dust. You couldn't get them. And actually, we're using the Hatton's website here for pictures, but back in the 80s and 90s, I used to be a frequent visitor to Hatton's. It was on Smithdown Road, good old Norman Hatton, and it was an Aladdin's cave of stuffs. And you used to go in there, and I can remember it was quite cramped, and I've never seen so much stuff put into such a small shop. But he used to have on top of some of these cabinets, there would be boxed, dust-covered Hornby O gauge and Hornby 00 sets that he just had in stock since the 60s. And they were just sort of sat there gathering dust. And I remember that if Norman was having a good day and he liked the cut of your jib, he would wheel out some of the brand new, and it was brand new because Hatton's originally in the 60s and 50s was a Meccano authorised dealer. So he bought the stock brand new from Meccano, from Binns Road, and stocked it as the official stockist, so it was brand new. And when Meccano went bust, he just bought as much as he could get, stashed it away. So he was bringing this stuff out of his stock room, and it was brand new. Nobody had seen the inside of that box since it was put in by the staff at Hatton's. And I can remember one particular time, it'd probably be about 1991, 92, going in there, and Norman was in a very good mood, and I got on quite well with Norman, it has to say. Didn't see him all that often, but when I went in, I was a small child who knew a lot about Hornby 00 because I just kind of act like a sponge for random bits of information. So you can imagine that there was Norman, who must have been at the time in his, 60s or 70s. And there was me, probably only about 12 years old, 11, 12, maybe 13 years old. And despite the fact that Meccano had gone out of business 20 years previously, I was able to hold down this in-depth conversation about the nuances of Hornby 00 with him. And I think he kind of warmed to this. He thought, you'll look after it. I'm going to let you have some of the good stuff. And he says, hold on a moment there. And he walked off into the back, and he was gone for about 4 or 5 minutes. And he brought back a whole load of boxes, red and white Hornby 00 boxes. And it was the tin plate-sided super detail coaches. But it wasn't like the run-of-the-mill ones. What he brought out were the ones you couldn't get for love nor money, the Southern Region green ones. And it's like, to you, a tenner each. And at the time, it was just an incredibly good price. And these were brand new, as mint as they come. And I think he just took a shine to me. And he sold, and I'm there with like Christmas and birthday money. And it's like, yeah, I'll have them. And my dad afterwards couldn't believe it. He said, the guy wouldn't sell me a bean. Yeah, you just talked with him about stuff. A smile came across his face, and he went, hold on a moment, went into the back room and brought this stuff out and went, there you are. any of this take your fancy? And I never forget it. I got on really well with Norman. Whenever I saw him, it was infrequently, but I remember the old shop really, really well. But I think to try and heave this back to the Bachmann new releases, I think that this is why I now have this love of Southern Railway rolling stock, is because it was so difficult to find back in the day. So this is one I'll be getting, but I'm looking at the discounted price from Hatton's, £15.26. They're getting pricey. I seem to recall when they were first released, the RRP was about maybe £6.50 for these. So it does show you how inflation has moved things up. But we're looking down here, bogey bolsters, and this one has caught my eye. I believe this might be the first. Actually, no, it can't be the first instance because we've got an A suffix on the catalogue number, but certainly Great Western Bogey Bolster. We've seen quite a few in the LMS livery. Aaron Lizard. So I take it somebody offered you the Hornby. I presume this is the Hornby 00 Southern Railway EMU set. You wouldn't say no. Well, it would depend on a lot of factors. I'm not actively collecting Hornby 00, and also my father already has one of those, and it was one of the last things that we got. Yeah, they're really hard to come by, actually. Lovely model in their time, and it held its own for a good long time, but actually the Bachmann models, even at the massive market prices that they are now, are still probably cheaper than buying the Hornby 00 model. But we're looking at this Great Western Bogey Bolster. Again, we're seeing that, we talked about this before, the 33 series wagon, but the Bogey Bolster and the Well Troll as well, they do hold their own. And like the Salt Wagon, actually, I'm not too bothered about these needing retooling. I don't think they do in a great... what was I talking about? I don't feel that these need a retool. I think that they were good in their time. They're not necessarily up to modern standards, but certainly they do hold their own. Nathan Chew, Norman Hatton should like a great guy. Yeah, Norman Hatton was a great guy. I was very sorry when he passed away. Yeah, I got on really well with him. A lot of people used to say that, he had good days and bad days, but I never saw him on a bad day, and that's how I really want to remember him. He was a top bloke, and he did an awful lot for the hobby, and certainly for people who collect Hornby 00. Without Norman Hatton, I think the Hornby 00 world would be a lot poorer for it. So, hats off to the guy. He was a bit of a visionary as well, in that he bought all this stock that nobody else wanted, and he kept it for the long term. And thanks to him, I think the stuff survived into collections. Right, I'm going to just pop that down. Let's have a look down. Something else. We've got the Bogey Well Wagon. That's appeared quite a few times. 33900F. Well, the F suffix means that we've had the original version, A, B, C, D, E. So we're up to, that's 5, 6. We've already had 6 versions of this, so you can build quite a rake of these now if you've been hoovering them up as they come out. But we've also now finally seen the LMS version. Now, I know that this has got a suffix. We've got the catalogue number 33-878A. But as far as I'm aware, this hasn't been released in the LMS livery since the days of the big fat couplings. So we're talking about, it's probably been 20 years since this was last in the Bachmann catalogue in this livery. Now, I have seen it in the SE&CR livery, seen it in the Great Western livery, the BR livery, a few others as well. Satlink, there was a Satlink wagon that was released as a special by Model Rail as part of their Satlink series. I do have that downstairs, and it's the only tops lettered version that I've actually seen of this wagon. The prototype wagons of these did last quite late on. They passed into the departmental fleet. They're very useful wagons, but it's nice to see them in these earlier guises. And as you can see here, it's got the correct single spoke pattern wheels, which is nice to see, and the diamond bogies. Later on, I believe they were upgraded with the diamond plate bogies. I'm just having a look here. That's got the diamond bogies, not the plate bogies. Sorry, I've got to get this straight. These are the plate bogies, which I believe were a later bogey. But the diamond bogies were the earlier wagons. This is dredging my knowledge of Hornby 00. They brought out the diamond bogey well troll first, and then later on tooled up for the plate bogies. So there's certain wagons. I know that the ICI bogey caustic liquor wagon from Hornby 00, they're rare enough as it is, but having them with a plate bogey is normal, but if you find one with a diamond bogey, they are very, very early and they are super duper rare. Transporting Southeast. Well, Hornby were spotted measuring 01 class at Bluebell Railway. It's interesting. I know that Hornby have been spotted out and about measuring things up. That Hornby do this thing, and it's where actually Dapol and Rails have kind of got burnt a little bit. And in the past, I know DJ Models got burnt with a couple of models, because whereas Bachmann are the kings of they'll announce something and they haven't even really measured it up or anything. They announce so early on. Whereas Hornby keep things really close to their chest, and in some instances you only know that they've been working on a model when it's pretty much released and in the shops, which I personally prefer. But it does mean you get these situations where Rails and Dapol, Rails commissioned Dapol to do full fat super duper terrier, and people have been crying out for that for a very long time. Oh, excuse me. And then Hornby announced, oh, actually, we've been working on it as well. And it's now going to be a race to market. The Adams Radial showed that they who get to the market first are the winners. And, you know, it's just the way it stacks up. I think that both the Hornby Terrier and the Dapol stroke Rails Terrier will both be a very good model. I've got no qualms about that. I think, you know, they will rival each other in terms of quality, but it's about who gets to the market first. Matthew Two, have you been seeing Oxford Rail N7? Those of you who tuned in at lunchtime will know that partway through doing the Bachmann announcements, I was interrupted by a phone call from a model shop to tell me that the Oxford Rail N7 had come into stock, so I should be picking mine up probably on Wednesday, but I haven't seen one in the flesh apart from when I was at Worley and I did photograph the model that was in Oxford Rail's cabinet. So Transporting Southeast, this was about 6 months ago, so next year. Yeah, I think you're right. I think what you're looking at there is probably one of their announcements for next year. That said, not everything that they measure up and take a look at does make it through the production process. There's a lot of other things that do do make it through or don't make it through for whatever reason. This guy would not share his name. I see you have set up Super Chat this time. Yeah, that was Zoe. She said, everybody else is doing it, so why don't you? So, like I said before, I'm not fishing for donations or anything. It's just something that's there. As I've said before, I'm not commercially associated at all with any of the manufacturers. I don't get freebies. I don't get review copies. And none of them have actually offered them. Generally speaking, in fact, not just generally speaking, but it's always the case that if I'm reviewing something on my channel, it's bought and paid for with my own money, which means I can rip it to shreds if I want. I don't feel beholden to anybody, which I suppose is it does mean that what you're getting is 100% undiluted Jenny's opinion. Whether my opinion is valid, I don't know. But that guy who would not share his name, so tempted to donate. Oh, well, thank you very much. The thought is there. So thank you for being tempted. I'm glad that I tempted you. Right, we're looking back down here. Now, these wagons, we've talked about the 33 prefix series of wagons. Now, I'm going to, again, name-checking Hattons because they've got really good resource here with all the pictures. They've done a great job. getting all these catalogue pictures that they've got from Bachmann in. They've done a better job than Bachmann. Actually, Bachmann's website is atrocious. I really think that the Bachmann website upgrade has actually been a downgrade. I think that actually the previous version of the Bachmann website was much more user-friendly, and I was a bit annoyed when they changed it for the new version. I don't find it user friendly, and there was a lot of information that was on the old website which just seems impossible to find now. But to go back to the picture you're seeing on your screen now, I've just picked this one at random. They've got several in their catalogue, and this is the 33-088A 5-plank China clay wagon GWR grey with tarpaulin cover. This is the flat tarpaulin cover, and in all honesty, what I have to say about this is that the tarpaulin looks atrocious, and the close-up photo doesn't do it any favours whatsoever. But I'm looking at that, and I'm sorry, Bachmann, but the cover, the material you're using doesn't scale well. Now, I've seen a few people scratch build covers out of, actually use tissue paper. It kind of folds and looks right for canvas on these wagons, but the ones that come from Bachmann, the flat ones, are particularly bad. Now, these were first introduced. There was a 3-wagon pack that was done as a special for Kernow Model Centre, and that's the first time we saw the flat canvas tilts appear. Prior to that, we'd had the peaked ones, which still look a bit, but weren't quite as bad. But really, the material they're using, which is a kind of a nylon-y stuff, it doesn't suit this scale. Transporting Southeast, why are at nearly 6,000 subs? You should be at least 20,000 subs. Yeah, I know, but there's a lot of competition in the field, and it's one of those things. Sometimes people ask me, how did you get so many subs? If I knew, then I'd share that with you, and everybody would have thousands upon thousands of subs. I've been on YouTube for around 10 or 11 years, and it just kind of happened. I remember the first 1,000 subs just sort of happened, and I think it's more a case of there aren't many women who do this kind of thing, and maybe that gave me my USP, as the management buzzword, the unique selling point. I don't know. I know that Kathy Millett as well does. She focuses on the model making. She's a tremendous model maker, and I've followed her YouTube channel for a good number of years now, actually, even before she was picked to be one of the judges on GMRC. And she knows her stuff. She really does know her stuff, but she doesn't do the other stuff which I do. So it swings and roundabouts. There's nothing stopping you watching many different people's channels. If you saw the people that I subscribe to, you'd see a lot of familiar faces, and probably a lot that you'd think, oh, that's interesting, I didn't know you're into that. There's a lot of car stuff as well. I follow a car channel called Car Throttle quite avidly. I follow Scotty Kilmer, if any of you heard of him. Big YouTuber. Cody's Lab as well. Very interested in chemistry and stuff. I have a degree, actually. I have a bachelor's degree. It's not in chemistry. It's in philosophy. Big joke. What do you say to a philosophy graduate? I'll have fries with that. That's the big joke that we always used to say at university, but it teaches you how to think and argue and to articulate things. So that's what I always tell people. Dundee Road, looking forward to 500 subs. It will come. It will come. The secret, I think, is YouTube keep changing the algorithm. I don't go chasing the algorithm. There's a few people who Zoe refers to as clickbaiters, and they play the algorithms, and they're the ones you see with like millions of subs, and it is clickbait, pure and simple clickbait, what they do. Unfortunately, it does seem to work, but if you want quality content, you have to work, and a lot of these videos are live stream's great because Zoe doesn't have to sit and edit it. But there's a lot of editing goes into a lot of these videos, and that's the difference between clickbait and quality content. And there's a lot of people do quality content, so it is there. But there's also a lot of people, like you see these dash cam channels, and they really are just clickbait. Welcome back, Devan GWR. Welcome back. just having a look back because I can only really glance at the comments. I'm multitasking a lot. I'm actually looking at some things off screen as well. I've got a whole load of. It's a bit like the Nerd Centre. I've got security cameras up as well because there's nobody else in the house at the moment. I'm just keeping an eye on that. And actually, funnily enough, from here I can see my model railway in the garden. It looks interesting at night. But yeah, the China Clay wagon is one wagon that it was holding its own, but I think of all of the 33 prefix series wagons, this is the wagon that, in my view, should be retooled next. The Bogey Bolster and the Well Troll wagon, I'm quite happy with them. And the Salt wagon holds its own. Stop trying to taunt me. I'm on the Slim Fast diet. I can't have chips with curry sauce. I can have a little protein bar is all I'm allowed because I had lasagna for lunch. Dundee Road, night running session of the new railway. Yeah, probably at some point, maybe in the summer when it's not quite so freezing out there. My plans are to maybe have a barbecue and train session. It's all O gauge now. It's ground level. It's the figure of 8, so it crosses back over itself on the Meccano girder bridge. And I didn't really dwell on. I'm just having a look there. I can see things on the cameras. I'm just trying to decipher at night what they are. It looks like somebody's in next door's garden, but I think it's a trick of the light. But yeah, they're not moving, so they're either a very, very well disciplined burglar or it's a trick of the light. Yeah, I was going to have a barbecue and sort of like the official opening of the Garden Railway at some point, but I'm going to wait till the weather warms up and we'll do some late night running sessions. I think that'd be grand. I know Dundee Road, Peter was part of the BLR team up in Scotland, so you know as well as I do that they did a lot of night running up there, and it's not going to be quite as manic as that. I must admit, there's a part of me tempted to build in one of the pieces of track that I kept as a souvenir, but it's not UV stable, so I'm told keep it out of the sunlight. Hadrian told me this. He said it's made down to a price. It's not designed to last because it didn't need to, so sunlight will destroy that stuff in a matter of months. We've also got the 3-plank BR bauxite early with the tarpaulin covers. We're not getting that peaked roof. The wagons themselves, if we look at the weathering on there, that weathering looks really nice on the tops. It's that chassis that looks a bit chunky that lets it down. But those tarpaulins, really, they'd be better off without them, I have to say, in all honesty. It's a shame, but, there we go. We've got a few new wagons, private owner liveries, re-releases. They've gone over 21 quid. These wagons were about £5.50 when they were first in the catalogue. Way back, actually, now, about 10-15 years ago, these 8-plank wagons with coke rails. I remember the RRPs, about £5.50, I think, £5.95 maybe, and look at it now, £21.21. And they must have recouped their tooling costs by now. There's been so many variants from these. I have to say that the cost of tooling up things like the CADs, the cutting of the tools and the making of the tools, all that must have been recouped by now. So really, I'm starting to think that some of these price rises I don't think can be quite so justified. Now, I know the tampo printing tools need to be made, but I still think some of these prices are going too high. Now, we've got here the 8-ton cattle wagon. And again, this originally started out as a Model Zone exclusive. They released these, I think it was 37710 or 12 possibly. Z was a Model Zone exclusive, a triple pack, lightly weathered. And I actually bought it when it first came out, first announced. And Model Zone used to do a lot of this, where they'd have a deal where they'd get the first run off a new tool, and then it would pass through. Aaron Izzard, what are you doing there? Shouting out the things here. Well, okay, fair enough. This is actually a great wagon, but top tip there, I'm looking at the price, £18.66, which is actually, no, this is the discounted price because we're on the Hatton's website, so this won't be the full RRP, I don't think. This will be the discounted price. If you want yourself this in the Great Western livery, Hereford Model Centre, actually, Philip Page said I get second-hand wagons from train fairs. Yeah, they've been out long enough that second-hand wagons are in the system, but if you want the cattle wagons brand new, I believe, certainly up till recently, Hereford Model Centre is another one of these shops that really is worth a good delve in. They were doing these as a triple pack, I believe, in the Great Western Railway livery, and the triple pack was not that much more than what the RRP, well, the price now for them singly is. So, it's worth taking a look at that. They also had a few other things. They had the Class 108 in blue grey with the Welsh Dragon on the front. They had that at an amazing price. I think they have now sold out because I was a great advocate of telling everybody that they were there, because I felt that, Hereford Model Centre had gone to the expense of commissioning and presumably paying for a full production run of this particular livery, so they deserve to be rewarded for taking that commercial risk. So I felt it was my duty to let people know that they were there. I can't actually look at links. I think YouTube goes weird on this. It just appears as a blank page, and also whatever I look at, you end up looking at as well. So I'm not going to be following YouTube links at the moment, I'm afraid, but thanks for posting that. We've got the I nearly swore there. I've just seen the price on these. My word, £50.96 for the TEA. Oh my word! Oh my word! That is. I remember when when you could get new release Bachmann Class 25s for less than that. I remember when the Bachmann Class 25 was about £37.50. Oh dear. Dundee Road. Jenny has put a lot of work into the new track. Mine is all in bits just now. A space is a big big problem for. Yeah, I know, £50. Yeah, I know. I was as surprised as you, and I nearly said what you've typed the symbols for. Dundee. Yeah, I am actually subscribed to Dundee Road. I've been subscribed for, what's that? You're live on Channel 4. Oh, are they re-showing Biggest Little Railway again? I think we live on the graveyard slot on 4OD, I have to say. Or is it, not 4, what's the, more 4? Seems to have Biggest Little Railway on the graveyard shift. I was told by a friend, actually, he stayed in a hotel and he couldn't sleep one night and he had the TV on low volume and he suddenly perked up, presumably like a meerkat, and he went, "That's Jenny. I can hear Jenny." And he realised that I was on the TV because they were showing a rerun of Biggest Little Railway, which is most peculiar. But yeah, £50.96. I'm thinking that the market's going to stagnate, is my honest opinion. Some of these things are just getting too expensive. They're £26.31 for the pipe wagon. Right, we talked about this particular wagon. We talked about this Rail Stores wagon at lunchtime, and I actually found the prototype picture of this. So I showed you all from Paul Bartlett's wonderful website. Big shout out, Paul Bartlett. He's the de facto source, certainly for wagons, that all of the manufacturers work from, because he has such an extensive collection of photos of wagons that would have otherwise gone completely unnoticed. So kudos to Paul Bartlett. He's done the hobby a great service by recording a lot of these. But this is showing the N-gauge model. But as I talked about earlier on, this wagon, the prototype, was on the modified air brake chassis. Now, British Rail in the late 90s, I believe, modified a number of the shorter wheelbase wagons to have uprated suspension and air brakes. And the reason for this was so that they could run with the Speedlink services, mixing in with air-braked wagons, but still be able to serve rail-served customers that had older track layouts on their premises that would include really tight curves that the longer wheelbase wagons like the VDA or the VGA would not traverse. The more common one was the VEA, which was a worked, so new suspension and with air brakes of the VEV, which is the van wide, which is a model that we don't have yet, although Bachmann did announce it last year, so who knows when we're actually going to see that model. But the vent van with the plywood doors is going to be getting this very distinctive and actually very eye-catching Rail Stores livery, but it's not going to have the new chassis as far as I can tell. So you're going to have this on a vacuum brake chassis, but pretending to be an air braked wagon. And I don't know whether that's going to be a deal breaker for a lot of people. It's one that I will be getting because I'm a sucker for these weird liveries, but I suspect that this is one that might end up sticking around for a while. Right, let's see. The other day I saw a wagon body, but sadly on a scrapper's truck. Yeah, you do occasionally see some actually quite old wagons knocking about. And I was talking with somebody who used to work at the Royal Ordnance Works up in Chorley. It's now a housing estate. I think Buckshaw Parkway is the new station that's next to it. But it used to be a Royal Ordnance Explosives work. And they had, within the factory, a very extensive internal rail network. And certainly into the 1990s, I'm told by somebody who worked there for a long, long time, he said there was a rake of internal user wagons, vans, that were used to move stuff around the site. When they fell out of use, they were just put in a siding and just left there. And then when they cleared the site, they set fire to all of them. And these wagons were pre-grouping wagons. So he said that there were ones there from the Hull and Barnsley Railway, the Caledonian Railway, the London and South Western Railway, all these sorts of things on their original chassis. They'd never been grounded van bodies. They were the real deal, the full wagon. And the Royal Ordnance burnt them. They refused to allow them to be sold on for preservation because they claimed that they would be contaminated with explosives residue, and unless they were extensively steam cleaned, the only thing that they were allowed to do with them was to burn them, which is a load of bollocks, to be honest with you. I think some people in officialdom should be taken out back and beaten quite badly for some of the stupid things that they come up with. But we lost a rake of pre-grouping wagons in actually quite reasonable condition, complete with underframes, because of some busybody bureaucrat who refused to think outside the box and even offered them to a preserve line and say, okay, you bring in your own steam cleaners and clean them and sign a waiver if the thing blows up, which it wouldn't, because the explosives were in sealed containers, so it wouldn't actually been contaminated. Then, these things could have been preserved. It's not far from the East Lancs Railway. And they could have made a big PR coup for donating them, but they chose to destroy them instead. But hey, how do we get onto that? I don't know. I do ramble a lot. Other things, we've got a re-release. Well, it's funny actually. The tops. We've got the tops code VVV. This has the catalogue number 38-163, but I believe it has been reissued. It's been issued at least twice before because I've got some downstairs. So that's misleading on the catalogue number on that one. But certainly welcome addition for those of us who model sort of like the late 70s BR Blue period. And we get the weathered version. And this is actually remarkably similar to, I think it was Hatton's commissioned a triple pack. Of these in the weathered livery with the VVV tops code, and I've actually got a set next door. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, I do ramble a lot. It's why when you see me on TV and the infrequent times I appear in front of the camera, I am heavily edited, and quite often I am scripted, and you're not supposed to know that, but in certain instances, not a written script, but it is suggested to me what I should be saying, and I kind of work around that. So the PDs, the people who hold the cameras and sort of direct you a little bit, they're the unsung heroes of trying to make me make sense on TV. Philip Page, word has it that there are steam engines in underground caves at Rivington. I can clear that one up. The same person who worked at Royal Ordnance, he's been in the underground tunnels, which the urban myth says has the sort of the reserve fleet of steam engines, and he says no, there's nothing in there. There's not even wagons, and that could have been somewhere they could have dumped those wagons. But he said there's the underground tunnels were used for storing explosives. That's simply what they were for. There is not and never was any steam locomotives there. It's an urban myth because the government's very good at flogging everything else. Do you really think that they'd still keep hold of steam locomotives which they could flog on to preservationists? Panther 590. I've pre-ordered 66789 in BR large logo livery. I think it's a special one of past and present. I mean, certainly the Class 66s are not my bag, but I know a lot of people for whom they are. So, get them whilst you can. The Bachmann model is a pretty good model, I have to say, from what I've seen and from what I've heard. This is another wagon which does take my fancy. It's another departmental ZDV, former sand tipler wagon, and I do like the livery application on that. That it does look pretty realistic, just like the real ones. And it will be modelled on a Paul Bartlett photograph, I'm pretty much certain. We've got here we are. Here's some of the ready weathered 16-ton mineral wagons. I'm going to show you one of these close up. You see the tempo printed rust effect on those is exquisite, and it has to be said that Bachmann have really upped the standard on wagons like these, and it's not just like one effect repeated ad nauseum. If I then go back to a different one, so we got here a completely different effect. So we'll just go to that there. Big up to Hattons for having all these pictures online. Kudos on you for getting all these pictures up. You've done better than Bachmann themselves did. But you see there, completely different pattern of weathering. And actually that one looks really good. What code do we got there? 37-250J. That actually, if it looks exactly like that, that has caught my eye. I particularly like, you see here, these sort of cracks, and this is where the paint has cracked because they've sort of slopped the paint on way too thick, and it splits when you do that, and the rust has sort of broken through, and we get another bit down there, and I just like that effect, and it really is amazing how these are being tempo printed to this quality. So that's one, I think I'll put that on my list, that particular wagon. And a final one of these ready weathered ones I'm going to bring up, a little bit less severe, but really nice nonetheless. And we've got an overall airbrushing over the tempo printed of the sort of the brake dust that you get built up, and the underframe actually does look quite nice. It's a nice matte colour, and it's something that has to be said. The Dapol, when they've done their weathering, they haven't got it right. And Dapol, if you watch this, you could do no worse than take a leaf out of Bachmann's book and make sure that you when you do your weathering, it's not about just blasting over with a dirty orange colour. It's more about getting it to look like it really is weathered, and not just oversprayed with muck coloured paint. So cold and flu tablets. I can feel my sinuses gearing up to really hurt. Right. We'll get down to the brake van. I mean, 25 quid for a brake van. When these were first released, again, they were sub £10. And, what the? We've got the pressed wind silo wagons. So not pressed wind silo, pressed flow cement wagons, blue circle cement, yellow. Look at the price, £42, and that'll be the discounted price. £42? When these were first released, they were expensive, but they were about, I think they were about £12, £13 RRP each. And, well, it's the same wagon. The tooling costs have been recouped, but £42? I should Coco. I honestly think some of these wagons are going to be slow sellers, and it's a shame, really, on a lot of the model shops because there's a lot of money tied up in stock that you don't necessarily know is going to sell quickly. And it goes back to some of those smaller model shops that have slower moving models. That's a lot of money that they've got tied up in stock, and it's very hard for a business if you've got money tied up in stock because it doesn't earn you anything. Let's have a look. Fan GWR. I know what TV film teams are like. We had S4C, the Welsh version of Channel 4. Down at the Gwilly, who took up 2 days filming for a programme about getting job experience for young people, and we had to walk them around as if they were little children asking, can we get this shot, can we get that? So bear in mind, they might bring in money, but they're a pain in the bum. Oh, tell me about it. I remember years and years ago, and just to give you an idea of how long ago it was with Fred Talbot, the weather guy. Since dodgy things came to light, he's ended up going to prison. But when I worked with him, I can only say it as I saw it. I got on well with him. I worked with him for a single day. We were doing some filming, and he was very polite. There was nothing untoward happened, anything. So my personal experience of Fred Talbot was that it was absolutely fine when I worked with him. But it was just for 1 day. So things happen. Not gonna really comment any more on that. But we did a day's filming, and this was with my father's miniature steam traction engine, the very first one that he built. And the reason that we ended up filming with Fred Talbot and Granada tonight was because ours was the only one that was in steam. And I remember the director saying to somebody else, "Oh, could you just start that up and put it over there," sort of thing. And the guys go, "It'll take several hours. It's a steam engine. You have to light a fire and clean the tubes, get the water hotted up, get it in steam." It's not something that happens like that. But my father and I had rather fortuitously, before the film company rocked up, and we knew they were coming, we just didn't know what they wanted to do. We'd rather fortuitously start it, cracked on from the moment that this thing was unloaded. We thought, well, we're going to light up and get it brewing. While everybody else was like, "Oh, you're feeding us. That's nice. Let's go and have all the free food." We were up and running, so most of the filming was actually done with me and my father. I don't actually appear in the Granada Tonight feature that he did, and this is sort of like 1999, 2000, maybe 2001, and they filmed for an entire day for maybe 12 minutes of footage that was used. But my claim to fame was I taught Fred Talbot to drive a steam engine, a steam Garrett road locomotive, and then I remember doing a lot with the PD in order to try and get the shots, and making a lot of suggestions. Well, we can do this if you want a certain type of shot. We can work around that. Is that film on YouTube? I don't know. I've never gone looking for it, I have to say. It may be, it may not be. I don't know. All I know, it was part of a feature on Granada Tonight. I think you see me in the background in a wide-angle shot, but most of the time I'm behind the camera. And it's the same for both me and my sister. My sister works full-time in television. She's now a producer and director, but she worked her way up from runner. So she's always worked behind the camera. So she's in so many things, but behind the camera. And that's kind of the story of my life, including, Doctor Who. Worked logistics for the lighting crews for some of the Doctor Who stuff. Sherlock. What else? Something called The Collection, which was, I think it's either Netflix or Amazon, and I've got some lovely photographs somewhere which I lost most of them because you can take these photos, but you can't share them because if they find out you shared them, you will never work in TV and film again. So you keep hold of all these things, and then when it gets shown on TV, then you can kind of show some of these things. And all I could find was 2 of these pictures. That will be right. Right. That's just the other half. I'll deal with that in a moment. Right. What was I talking about? Ah, yes. Meanwhile, back at the ranch. Yeah. So I've done a variety of things, but as in terms of appearing in front of the camera, biggest little railway. Biggest little railway, and there was something that they filmed at Bolton School many years ago, and I was an extra in that. They basically, we need people to be extras. Who wants to do it? Come into school in your school uniform on Saturday, bring your PE kit. And because there were shots where they needed people on the playing fields, and another claim to fame. Ralph Little was at the boys' school, Bolton School, and he went on to become mega famous. But his first ever on-screen TV role was an extra in the same thing that I'm an extra in. So yeah, bet you didn't know that about me. Philip Page, I went to Bolton School. Well, yeah, so did I. Yeah, local through and through me. Lived and worked in so many different places, but I came back. Let's see, we also, right, I talked about this at lunchtime. The Bachmann branch line 27-ton steel tipper wagon. Yeah, Greg Palmer, I know, 42 squid for the Blue Circle press flow, but must be gold plated. Yeah, and some. I think it pretty much, it has to give you a back massage when you get out of the box or something. This caught my eye, the MSV Stone Wagon. It's nice to see the Stone Traffic logo. Is that... it's just repeating itself. Blooming smartphones. Who'd have one of those? Oh, here comes that sneeze. Hold on. Photoreactive. Sorry about that. I probably redlined all of the microphones with that. I have to sneeze with my mouth open because otherwise I really hurt my nose and I can't smell or taste anything for days afterwards if I sneeze quietly. Let's have a BR Steel 27-ton steel tiplet. Now, right, this wagon, Bachmann have released it as an MSV before, so we didn't have the Stone logo, and I like that actually. That's really good, faithful reproduction. Didn't have any of this other stenciling. It was just fairly basic, but excuse me. Oh, that probably sounds horrible. I'm getting all bunged up here. For those of you just joining, I am suffering with a rotten cold, so it's why I've got a red nose. Why I sound a little bit hoarse and throaty. But no, to go back to this wagon, there's no vacuum cylinder. I can see that there is no vacuum cylinder underneath. See, the giveaway, Bachmann, is the V. V for vacuum brakes. Not vacuum pipes, but vacuum brakes. This should have a vacuum cylinder underneath. And we put the last one down to being a little bit of an oversight at the factory. But please, Bachmann, fit this wagon with a vacuum cylinder and for the brakes for when it's released, because it's supposed to have one. There appears to be, if you actually take one of these tippler wagons and turn it over and have a look underneath, there appears to be the means for them to fit in the extra parts. They just haven't done it. So we'll be watching that one with a weather eye, I think. Let's have a look. Down to the TTA. Right, aha. Interesting about some of these liveries. This particular one, TTA, Charrington's Fuel Oils, one of the last special commissions that Model Zone did was a 4-pack of TTA wagons, the Charrington's Fuel Oil pack. And in it, you had 2 in this livery and 2 in like a grey livery. And it came out pretty much at the point that Model Zone went bankrupt, and certainly they were in the big fire sale where the official receiver was trying to recoup as much money as they could, try and get rid of a lot of the stock, because if it went to auction they'd get pennies in the pound for it, so it made sense to try and sell as much as they could direct to the consumer. So at the time I bought a whole load of stuff. I was hoping actually if enough people supported it with enough gusto, then quite possibly the signal box could have been, sold as a going concern. Unfortunately, it was not to be. It's a shame because I remember the signal box as being one of the big players in the market before Model Zone took them over. But this will go quite nicely with the Charrington's Fuel Oils 4-pack. And, it's nice to see the weathering effect. And we've got that kind of shiny diesel slick. Well, I say diesel. Fuel oil tends to be a non-road use duty paid diesel is simply what it is. And a lot of the time it's not quite as cleanly refined. So you tend to find that it has a higher parts per million sulfur content. So you can't actually put it in a modern diesel engine because it does do damage to some of the sensors because they're just geared up to not have that level of sulfur in there. But that is going to be a welcome addition. But certainly, if you can find online the Charrington's Fuel Oils 4-pack that was originally Model Zone, people may be selling them second hand, you may be able to get this wagon for a good price. And I'm looking there, £27.16. I'm trying to think what the 4-pack of the wagons came to. I think that the 4-pack originally, I think it was only about £35 was what it was going for, something like that. The way that these prices have gone up in the last few years is really quite eye-watering. Other wagons here, a Moco Grey. Interestingly enough, I believe that this livery was originally a special commission by Frizinghall Model Centre. I don't know whether they'll still have any, but again, if this livery is something that floats your boat, it may be worth checking out Frizinghall Models to see if they've got any left, because they've had them for a few years now, so inflation will mean that the prices that they're selling them for, even though they are a special commission, so would have been sold originally at a premium, they may work out cheaper than the prices that these will be sold when they do finally come out. And these are provisional prices, I have to add. Bachmann, it takes so long to bring these things out. I've seen things where the prices go up 3, 4, 5 times before you actually see them in the shops. So take some of these prices with a pinch of salt. They're subject to change. The finer silver wagon, or finer, that particular wagon was in the main range but unweathered as far as I can remember. I don't actually have one. It's sort of a little bit early for my period of interest. Now, right, this wagon, I'll bring this up. This livery has appeared in the main range several times before. Giveaway is that catalogue number 37-582D. So this is actually going to be the 5th instalment. I know, a bit confusing. D is the 4th letter of the alphabet, but there's a 5th instalment, which the very first release is always without a suffix letter. But, and again, this is where you might be able to source these wagons quite cheaply. Of course, they'll be out there second hand to find if this livery is a deal breaker for you. The Hereford Model Centre have released, so far as I'm aware, 4 special commissions of this wagon. One of them with the Z suffix is clean like this. They have sold out of the Z suffix. I believe I bought one of the very last ones because they weren't actually advertising it at the time. Are we still? Oh, so for a moment there, I thought that the timer had stopped ticking over. I am still broadcasting, aren't I? Yeah. No, Nathan too, there, I've seen your comment there. This is the BP shell tanker, nice. Yeah, I was worried. We've been on for 2.5 hours, actually. I could talk for England. It's all those tangents. But anyway, meanwhile, let's get back to the ranch and see what's cooking in the Bachmann announcements. But the Hereford Model Centre then also went on to produce 3 further special editions. So I think there's something like, off the top of my head, catalogue number 37-582 W, X, Y and Z on the suffix. So you probably find them second hand, but certainly the W, X and Y versions were, at least until comparatively recently, still available through Hereford Model Centre. And they've been out for quite a while, so what you will find is that price inflation means that those wagons are probably now cheaper than what you would be buying the new one from Bachmann when it finally does come out. Gonads 12.59. Well, welcome back, Gonads. Crikey me, over 40 quid for a goods wagon. Someone like Blue Circle must be wanting over 30 quid copyright to use their logo. Yeah, I'm not sure how much of that is. I don't think that the royalty payment is probably pence per wagon. That they'll presumably pay a flat fee for the entire production run, but it will not be that amount of it. That a lot of that is just Bachmann have put their prices up by an awful lot. So let's go back to the list. We've got the BA. Whoa, 40 quid nearly for a BAA. BAA steel wagon. BD. Right. These now, interestingly enough, this very wagon, the BDA in load haul livery, but without the pipes. Now look at that price, £36.51. I do happen to know that last time I was in the Bolton Model Centre that's at Holton Lane Ends, or it might be Holton Model Centre. I always get them confused. He still had some of the original release of the BDA wagon in this very livery, and he had them at the original price, discounted, that he was selling them at, that everybody was selling them at. So if this wagon is one that you really want, you can get it for around a third of that price. Yeah, that's right. That's how much these have gone up. So if this is like a must-have wagon for you, it's worth looking up. It's Bolton Model Centre at Holton Lane Ends. Giving him a ring tomorrow. I have no affiliation with that retailer. It's just I've been there quite a few times, bought a lot of stuff. He doesn't give me freebies. He doesn't give me a discount. I'm not on commission or anything. It's just simply I am aware that this particular livery, he has this wagon, this livery, without the load, at about 12-13 quid, I think, if memory serves me correctly. I actually bought, not that particular one, but I bought pretty much this livery, the BR Bauxite. And again, he had the unweathered version for around the same price, but they may have sold out by now. BR livery for the bogey bolster. Yeah, here we are. Yes, if you're talking about the if I go back to the list, BR livery for the bogey bolster. Let's just scroll back up the list. Weltrol's bogey bolsters, BR grey. Yeah, there's a few choices. I'm presuming that the bogey bolster C is the one you're mentioning. I've just shown you the BDA. This is the what would be under tops the BCO. Dick Turpin is alive and kicking. Yeah, working in retail as well. Well, actually, no. I will trot that comment back now, because it's not the actual retailers who are at fault. This is Bachmann imposing price rises. So, retailers, you can't sell at a loss. It's as simple as that. You've got to make a living at the end of the day. So we've got to respect that. Yeah, and the thing is, gosh. Everybody's coming out with the same comments. Oh, well done, Snap. Yes, sir. You win the game of Snap. But yeah, the bogey bolster, that's out there in a number of different BR grey liveries. We've only ever seen this from Bachmann, as far as I'm aware, in the Tops lettered livery once. I do have one downstairs somewhere, which is the Bogey Bolster C, the BCO. I would love to see that livery come out again. Let's just take a quick closer look and see. So the BR early, yeah, we're just getting all the early ones. And again, the Well Troll, we've never had that out in the later Tops lettered livery. So let's go back down the list to where we are. It's past the super expensive Blue Circle wagon. Nuclear flask wagons for 42 quid there. Limpet wagon has reached nearly 20 quid. Again, I just highlight this wagon because I've seen these. These are still out there. The original 38-087 without the A suffix in this livery are still out there, brand new from some of the smaller retailers that may not move stock as fast. I have seen them, and they're at the original RRP. So £17.81 Bachmann. I should Coco. These are available for about 7 quid if you are prepared to hunt around. In fact, I think Hatton's may still certainly Hatton's had this wagon in the sale comparatively recently. But see, Oxford, I presume the Oxford rail models have got to be worth buying at these prices. Yeah, it's something I've already said in my review videos that the Oxford rail wagons, offer very good value for money. And it has to be said, it does kind of call into question some of these claims that, the cost of manufacturing in China has gone through the roof. Well, how come Oxford Rail can still make a profit when making these things at far, far less money? We've got the OTA timber wagon, again, quite expensive. Yes. At lunchtime, we were talking about the RBA, and I actually thought it might have been a VBA, but this is actually the former VGA, I believe. It's reappeared, but in DB Schenker livery, but as a barrier wagon. I'm not entirely sure what these are being used on. The cat has come to visit. You can't see the cat because she's obviously down at floor level. And, I do exist below this point. There is more of me down here. It's just the camera doesn't see it. And, who wants to see my feet? Oh, the cat. Come on. I'll see if we can get the cat into view. Oh, it's good for a laugh. Hold on, don't move, Fred. If I can, this is a very large Mac. So, Fred, come on, Fred. There we are. We have Fred has come to visit us, haven't we, Fred? Yes. You're all right. You're looking at me with that evil look like you're going to gouge my eyes out at any moment. But let's move that back. And, see you later, Fred. Let's go back to the models. It's an interesting livery, certainly suits the modern image modeler. Wants food. Cats always want food. The thing about cats is that they will pretend that they have never, ever been fed, even if you were the one who fed them last. And many's a time that she's tried to scam the next person who comes downstairs for more food. It's an interesting model. Again, I like these slightly more interesting wagons. We've got the reappearance of the VDA. Again, look around. These can be had relatively cheaply from previous production runs. If you either don't already have the previous production run or you're not too fussy about running things all with the same running number. Certainly back in the good old days, you got one running number for 20 years out of Hornby or Hornby 00, and you learnt to like it. VGA and BRL Freight Red, BRA Steel Carrier. When these first came out, actually, I did buy a set of these, and I don't remember them being anywhere near that £38.21 price. I did subsequently sell them. I seem to recall them being about £15 RRP. Dogs are the same as well, because dogs are basically a life support system for a stomach. We got the reappearance of the CEA. This one says EWS unbranded, but I had some of these. I did subsequently sell them, but I actually had these, and I was quite happy to mix them in with BR stock, to be honest with you. Nice to see them reappear in the range. We've got this as well, but again, they've been in the range so many times in the past, in these very liveries. The weathered load haul, certainly, again, that's one that I sold on to somebody, and I was paying RRP about £5.50, £6 for these. So they are out there second hand. Right, we've got the conflats with an assortment of containers. I'm still waiting for Bachmann to do the conflat in the tops lettered version. So it's the conflat A. So I have seen a photograph of it on the Paul Bartlett site with the tops lettered code FAV. And I would love to see it in that livery to suit the sort of the 1970s era's modelers. But they seem loath to release it. Let's just have a closer look. No, we still don't have it in the later livery. So let's just see, what else have we got now? Oh, well, we get it again at the Great Western Railway livery. And let's have a good close look at this. Yeah, it's nice. That weathering there, it does look like they've weathered that in a hurry. It's not an even covering, it must be said. But a lot of these are done specially for the photos, so that they're not actual production models, they're mock-ups. And again, like this GWR 12-ton ventilated van in BR Early Grey. This wagon was originally about a £5 RRP, and it does make you wonder how, when all of the tooling costs have been paid off, how is £18.66 justifiable from Bachmann? And again, if you want them in Great Western Railway livery, I think Hereford Model Centre still have some of their specially commissioned 3-wagon packs for sale. Let's have a look. Duffans, GWR. I was going to recreate a SWML, small... Not sure what that acronym means. Port Stalbert Steel Train, but at these prices, I don't think it would be viable. Yeah, I think second hand, really, really hunt hard second hand. They will be out there. Let's have a look. Shunters trucks back, but look at the price. In all honesty, when you can get, and I'll put this out there, when you can get in sales the both the Bachmann and the Hornby versions of these wagons for, I've seen them down to as low as £6. Why would you be paying £27.16? In all honesty, that's a lot of money to pay for a model you can get for £6, and I'll repeat that, for £6 elsewhere. So why is that? Oh, there we go. I don't think they're going to sell well at that. I think there's an opportunity there for Hornby to clear up. I know they got to the market second and lost out to Bachmann in the Battle of the Shunters truck, but Hornby, if you're listening, re-release of your shunter truck at a much keener price, you get in there. We've got the fish vans here. Funnily enough, in the Hatton sale, they were selling these just before Christmas for £13. So they are £21.21. It's not gone up as much as some of the others, but certainly I do really actually quite like that wagon. So nice to see another running number on that. It is weathered. We've got the planked end LNER bauxite. The BR version of this particular wagon, again, the Bolton Model Centre, Hulton Lane ends. He does have some of those in the early BR livery for, I think, about £6, which was the original RRP. The Southern 2+2 planked vent vans, and I love these, I have to say. The plywood ones, I really don't know why this particular wagon presses all my buttons, but I do like that wagon with the plywood sides. It's just, I do like it. I've got quite a few of them, but £18.66, I think we're going to have to wait for the prices to drop down a little bit. Right. Pillbox brake van, again, if you hunt around, the very first release of these can still be found out there. I know Arcadia Models still has a few. The olive green one I've seen around as well, and the southern ones, you can get them for sub £10. So, yeah, 2 phone boxes for almost 22. That'll be in the Scene Craft. We'll take a look at those in a moment. This livery, what price have we got on this? Let's have a look. $33.96. I believe that this livery was originally done pretty much by TMC. Did this, and it might be worth checking out their website actually, because they will have it available now, and price inflation means that their specially commissioned one might actually be as keen, if not keener price than that. So, again, it's worth hunting around. Reappearance of the SSA scrap wagon. Again, this is a wagon which, even though it's the 33 series wagons, it's not a bad model. And it's nice to see it reappear. The price is still quite pricey. So what was that? Oh, Philip Page, there's a fish van behind the Rivington pub on Station Road at Blackrod, painted white and used as a storage shed. I didn't know that. So is that a BR one, or is that SE&CR or somebody else's? That's interesting. I might have to go looking for that. There are still a lot of grounded van bodies out there. It has to be said, an awful lot of grounded van bodies. In fact, if you head south on the M1, heading just before junction 34, Meadowhall, if you look to your left-hand side, there's about 6 in the field there, falling into the ground. Quite a variety of them. There's some of those southern. I don't think they're the plywood ones. There might be these, the southern 2+2 planked vent vans, looking very sorry for themselves, and some of the more normal BR ones. Right. Anyway, we mentioned the loco decoder, the 6-pin earlier on. Actually, I'd be quite interested to see that picture at some point. So yeah, I'll look out for that. A lot of these Bachmann branch line structures very expensive. Oh my word! Steel frame crane, 50 quid. It can get very expensive if you use a lot of these Scene Craft builds. They are quite nice. I've seen them, but they're quite small. It has to be said. And 2121, here we are. Yeah, K8 phone boxes. Yeah, that is quite expensive. I believe they're available as a plastic kit from Model Scenes. So it may be worth looking for alternative sources, and certainly the Model Scenes phone boxes. I've got the very ubiquitous the stereotypical British red phone box. Those kits are available, and you don't even need to paint them. All right. Well, I'll see you later, Aaron Izzard. It's I was just looking at the next comment. You best be able to make a call from those. Yeah, best be able to make a call and it be free at that sort of price. But yeah, see you later, Aaron Izzard. Have a nice tea, and thank you for joining us through this. And Dundee Road, I think it's nice as a scratch build. Yes, certainly is. But I know my scratch building skills in some areas, buildings being a biggie, aren't so great. So you play to your strengths and weaknesses, and something that I told myself a long time ago when doing model railways is, if there's a task that you don't enjoy doing, that you really hate doing, and there is you can sort of spend your way out of it. Sometimes you have to tell yourself, I do this hobby for enjoyment, and if I don't enjoy this particular part of the hobby and there's an easy way round it, then actually I'm going to, buy ready-to-plant buildings, that kind of things. I actually kit bash super quick kits an awful lot, and Metcalf kits, and I find that a really good compromise. So you've got a lot of the parts are ready made, but you kind of mix and match and build what you want from them. And if you ever see my exhibition layout, Grove Street Yard, you'll see a lot of that the buildings, whilst they're unique to that model, they're kit bashed out of a lot of super quick type models. BR Fish Van, built at Horwich, number E87793. It's one of those things, actually. It's nice to see a survivor, and with an E prefix on there, that means that will be Era 4, as Bachmann like to use the Era system. But certainly, that's a good survivor, and I hope it'll last. And hopefully, if and when they decide they no longer want it, you do hope, if it's in good condition, that it will find a new home. Oh, we've got the police box. Hornby did a Scaledale one, which I've got one of, and they do appear frequently secondhand, so I can't see that being a massively fast seller. We've got a few other bits here, and then we've got 009 narrow gauge. Now, I'm going to try and wrap this up now because I'm starting to lose my voice. It's really difficult to talk despite the cold and flu tablets. Andrew Keeley, many thanks for that. Thanks for a really thorough job. I'll look forward to going over it better later. Many thanks for your donation. That is much appreciated. Thank you. Really, thank you very much. I just aim to please with going through some of these. I've drawn in the pictures from a variety of different sites, the lists from a variety of different sites. So Hatton's has actually been a really good site. If you want to have a look at the full list yourself, you could do no worse than to pop over to Hatton's. But hopefully I'm putting a little bit of a spin on this in terms of a bit of background to some of these models, and hopefully that's the USP, the unique selling point. But I'm looking now at these 009 narrow gauge Baldwin locomotives, and I believe that E763 SID, not SID as in short for Sydney, or Sid James or anything like that, but I think it's the River SID. These were named after rivers, and this is a fictitious livery as far as I'm aware, judging by what I've seen online. But it's sort of like a what-if locomotive, and I quite like that. And certainly if you model in 009, or certainly if you do the Linton and Barnstable, you've never had it so good, really. You're getting a lot of the locomotives, and Pico are doing a lot of the rolling stock. And then we've also got here the Bagley Drury 70 horsepower diesel DH88. We covered a lot of these, actually, earlier on, and I do like this Southern Railway insulated livery. I've not seen a super detail wagon from any of the manufacturers in that livery. Hornby 00 did a tin plate meat wagon in that livery, which was, I really did like it back in the day. And Hornby themselves have done what is now a more railroady model previously in that livery, but have yet to see a full fat full-on super detail model in that livery in 00. But here we have it in 009. That is nice, actually. If it wasn't for the price, and certainly if I can get that discounted out and about, I'd be very tempted just to have that, just because it's pretty. And that's me for you. I like the ICI one for the same reason. Pretty. And there's some really nice little wagons here as well. Oh, yes. The Micah B here. They've used the same photograph for both those. I think that's a floor. I've seen that elsewhere. So that's a floor in the Bachmann release. And finally, we're moving on to the buildings here for the narrow gauge stuff. These, my prediction is these are going to be very popular if you want to model narrow gauge, and certainly there's a lot forthcoming from Bachmann, announced last year with things like the Penderyn Quarry Hunslet, or is it Penryn Quarry Hunslet, the Denoric Quarry Hunslet. There's a lot of scope for doing a... Oh, thank you very much. Gosh, I've been yabbering on for so long that Zoe has come back from work and has brought me my treat, an alcohol-free Copperberg.
Cheers.
Cheers. So, still sticking to dry January. Actually, that is nice. I can well recommend that. Very quickly, looking back, I think these are going to sell really well, and we're going to see a wealth of sort of Welsh narrow gauge type layouts. And I know, actually, when I was younger, I really wanted to model things like, I loved the Festiniog Railway, the Llanberis Lake Railway. The Welsh Highland Railway wasn't really a thing back then. There was the little tiny stub at Porthmadog, but certainly it was the Festiniog that really interested me. And if these sort of things had been available back then I'm sure that actually I might have turned to the dark side and gone 009. Andrew Keeley again. Yeah, thank you very much. It's I feel humbled that you've put that in the jar, as it were. So thank you very much for that. Oh yeah, Talith Lynn. Yeah, that was it. That was the other thing. And actually, the Talith Lynn Railway, It's a railway that I've always wanted to go and visit, but never managed to get round to doing so. Obviously read up quite well about it, and there was a TV thing that fell through that I was involved with, like very early stages, at the beginning of last year. And anybody who followed my YouTube channel back then, there was videos where I was in London with a couple of people, and like it was all like super secret squirrel stuff, what we were doing. That fell through, but one of the ideas that was mooted around for one of the episode ideas was to do with the Talyllyn Railway, and that's all I'm allowed to say. So I might have, if that had gone through, I might have been able to get there, but sadly was not to be. And we've reached the bottom of the list, so my voice is starting to fail me. It's been great to have you all along, and it's nice to be able to shoot the breeze and interact in this way. What we're going to try and do with Shed Chat is we're going to try and do probably a Monday thing this sort of time in the evening. I think will work better. Today I did one at lunchtime because of the Bachmann announcements, and certainly on I think it's the 22nd of January, when Oxford Rail make their announcements. I'll try and do something around that time as well and go through that, because I'm really interested to see what Oxford Rail will be releasing. So join me there, join me then. But in the meantime, we'll be back with the more usual Shed Chat format, and I won't be talking for quite so long. I'm coming up here on 3 hours. My word, no wonder my voice is starting to go. Also, don't forget you can support me on Patreon as well. It's not, you don't have to, don't worry about it. It's just there if you want to. And people who support the channel through Patreon do get early access to the Friday videos. And also, depending on tiers, there's also things like you get copies of my books, which I must also mention. My books are still available. Bringing Home the Stars and Twinkle to the Stars, rave reviews. I've got 3 new books out, and actually it's really bad, I can't remember what they're called. I think where Once the Faithful Roamed, and they've got linked titles. I didn't actually dream up 2 of the titles, which is why I struggle to remember them. That's embarrassing. I can't remember the titles of my own books, but they are still available. You can find them on Amazon. I think there's ebook copies. You can buy physical copies, and normal service will hopefully resume. There should be another visit to Brian's Model Railway on the Wednesday's video, so you'll get to see a little bit more of Brian's mad fanaticism for DCC sound. And then on Friday, we've got a top 5 video going through some of my favourite locomotive releases of the previous year. I know we're sort of getting through January, but it's like there's so much to do and so few release days to do it. And I know I could put a video up every day, but I think Zoe would kill me with the amount of editing. But thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe. I don't even know what the hand signal for that is. Share this video too. And I'll see you again next time. And yeah, thanks for the sentiments on the cold. Yeah, I feel absolutely rotten. I think in the normal stream of things, if I wasn't doing dry January, I would be glugging back a nice Glenfiddich cask strength whiskey. I do still have some left in that bottle downstairs. I've had that bottle about 6 or 7. Oh yes, ring the bell. That's what Scotty Kilmer says. Ring that bell and you'll be the first to know about new videos as and when they go up. Thank you very much, Peter. But until next time, you all take really good care of yourself, and hopefully I will be able to actually sign off without you ending up looking at a picture of me picking my nose or something when it's still recording when I think it's gone. But look, you take really good care of yourself, and I'll catch you later. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.